Welcome back to Quiet on Set. Today we're sharing our top 10 favorite films of 2024. We got to see a ton of great cinema in 2024, and because all of our lists contain 10 films times 4, that's 40 films, so there's not a ton of overlap for all of those picks that we have. There's not a single film that is actually on all 4 of our lists. You'll find all of the collective lists that we made in the comments below. If you want to spoil yourself, down there you'll also find the companion list for all of the honorable mentions that come up, all of the films that end up being brought up thanks to Lachlan. He does those. You can also find other lists on our Letterboxd HQ account. Let us know about your top 10s in the comments below and subscribe if you don't want to miss the content. We'll introduce ourselves when we go over our honorable mentions, because this is our first four-way recording. There's 4 of us in here, which will solely be the films that made it on none of the top 10 lists. I'm Ewan Graf, and I'm joined by my podcast co-host Lachlan, who's the one who sounds a bit Aussie. Well, actually not a bit, he's just Aussie. And then Kevin, who's our producer and film festival correspondent. He's the one with the funny European accent, which is different from my funny European accent that sounds a bit more German. And finally, Connor Brandenburg, the most recent addition to our team, who helps us with reviews of new releases, but also on our Roll That Again series for older films. But enough of my yapping. You're probably already fed up with all of that. So let's get into it. I'm going to hand it over to Lachlan to share his honorable mentions for 2024 and some stats about the list.
As Ewan says, the honorable mentions are films that didn't make it into our top 10 list. Most of these are just outside of those lists. And I feel like I can speak for all of us here. At one stage, these films may have been in those top 10 list of ours, but they've kind of snuck their way out now. And I feel like this has been a strong year where there's just been a lot of good stuff. So, you know what? Here's some honorable mentions that I wanted to shout out that I thought would make it into my top 10. The first one is Civil War, and mainly just because I think Kaylee Spaney deserves the hype that she's been getting, but also, why were they shooting on film for how necessary those shots were in that movie? That's just ridiculous, so that's why it's getting a little shout out. Monkey Man for Dev Patel's directorial debut, because I feel like as a debut for action, and also all of the struggles that man went to make the film, deserves that hype and deserves a little mention there. Chime, which I don't want to talk about too much, but if you know Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and if you don't know him, Google him, but if you do know him, 45 minutes of a lot of just what the hell's going on. And a little honorable mention to Blockbuster City. This has been a great year for really decent big blockbusters, and that to me is just a good sign that the industry is coming back to not just making garbage and pumping that out, especially for the mainstream audiences. Things like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, A Quiet Place Day 1, Twisters, Gladiator 2. Yes, all of these were big blockbusters, and while they might not be perfect 10 out of 10s, 5 out of 5s, maybe not even 8s or 7s, they were just purely entertaining. And that even goes to the smaller screen with something like Carry On, and earlier in the year with The Fall Guy. But one more honorable mention, and I think that as I was looking at all of these honorable mentions, looking at all of your lists, I think we need to take a moment of silence for what we may have thought could have been on our lists, but definitely isn't. And that's for Megalopolis or Megaflopolis, because unfortunately I think that it is statistically like one of the lowest rated movies on our lists. So just a quick moment for that one there. But that's everything I had to mention. I think, Kevin, you're up next. And my God, man, you have some really good honorable mentions.
Thank you. I tried to do my best. The one that definitely hurt the most, cutting out of my top 10, knowing my loyalty to Clint Eastwood, is sure number 2. My heart absolutely shattered in pieces putting that out of the top 10, because one movie snuck into the top 10 last night. Conclave is the juiciest movie of the year. Yes, even more than a certain tennis movie. The Room Next Door. Not a lot of people are going to mention this one. I will. It fucking bangs. We have Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cloud. We have Chime. We have Cloud. Maybe Ewan will shout out another Kurosawa movie later. Who knows? We got September 5th. I know it's September 5, but everyone says 5th because we don't care. We got Good One, which is a great one. We got Billy and Molly, an utter love story. I don't care what anybody else on this channel says. It's one of the best movies of this year. It has an otter in a house with Wi-Fi. Baby Assassins, Nice Days. Absolute bang. We got Il Tempo Ci Si Vuole, which is The Time It Takes. Ewan and I absolutely adore that one out of Venice. We also have Se Ancora Domani, which is There's Still Tomorrow, which was for a long time in my top 10. Haikyuu, The Dumpster Battle. I just felt the need to scream that because there are 2 exclamation points. We got Grand Tour, One for the Road. These people have no idea about the 22-year-old history of the Grand Tour. Well, I do. I grew up on it, and they went out with a special of rules on their own, and it just made for greatest hits of the Grand Tour and Top Gear. We got Stranger Eyes, which is another Venice one. We got the documentary of Making The Last of Us Part 2, Grounded 2. We got Six, and I won't elaborate. We got The Outrun, Julie Keeps Quiet, or Julie Zwijgt, because I can speak Dutch. And last but not least, we have M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Trap is a banger, guys. I'm a trap shooter, alright? I don't care what anybody else says.
Great.
Alright, so next up we got Connor. Connor, hit me with it.
Yeah, so I got a lot because this year is kind of a banger, I'll be honest with you. A lot of these kind of might be overlap with some of you guys' lists from last year because only some of them released this year, and I finally got to catch some of them. I'm starting off with La Casina, which I absolutely adored. It's a movie from Alonso Ruiz Palacios, who I am a big fan of. He made Museo and Gueros, big fan of that movie. Jesse Eisenberg's sophomore feature, Real Pain, which I absolutely loved, and Kieran Culkin is getting all the praise he deserves with that movie. I have Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, which obviously everyone's a big fan of right now. I think it just reached 1 million watches on Letterboxd recently, so everyone's praising and adoring that movie. I have Totem, which is a Spanish film from I think last year, but that only came out on Criterion Channel this year, which I really, really loved. It's a really good slice of life Mexican movie. Really love that one. Hirokazu Koreeda's Monster, which is really incredible. I'm a big fan of his movies, and I think this sort of shift into Rashomonic kind of storytelling really, really suits his really intricate character-driven storytelling. I have All of Us Strangers, which is a really incredible movie from Andrew High. Has great performances, especially from Paul Mescal, which I really loved his performance in that movie. And the score in that movie is amazing too. I have The First Slam Dunk, which is an incredible anime movie. I love that movie so much. I love the manga Slam Dunk. Big fan of that one. So to see it finally adapted by the original mangaka as well. I have Ryuichi Sakamoto's performance film Opus, which is directed by his son, who happened to direct another movie, which I think might appear on someone's list later on, or maybe someone's honorable mentions. I think his name is Neo Sora. But that's a really emotional, heartfelt final performance from Ryuichi Sakamoto, and I'm a big fan of him, so seeing that kind of emotionally devastated me. Ren Fair from Lance Oppenheim. Now this one is like a mini series, but apparently it was shown at film festivals as a whole movie instead of a mini series. It's just a longer movie. I think it was 4 hours, something like that. He's a great documentary filmmaker. The Beast, which is an amazing, mind-bending genre fusion. It's insane, but it's by Bertrand Bonello, and it's one of the most incredible Lynchian experiments I've seen in forever. I might be using Lynchian later on with another film, but love that movie. I have a movie that might be another overlap with some of your guys' lists from last year, about Dry Grasses, which I absolutely adore. The dialogue in this movie is some of the best I've seen in any movie, at least in the past couple of years. He's an incredible filmmaker, and I really need to check out his older stuff. But all his movies are super long and dialogue driven, but they find a way to combine all these elements of slice of life and character drama and thriller elements and make it just this really just enveloping concoction of just amazing drama. Evil Does Not Exist by Hamaguchi, which is absolutely incredible. And the score, there was apparently a live performance of the orchestra at one of the film festivals, and I wish I got to see that. That would be absolutely incredible. Look Back, an adaptation of the manga by Fujimoto, who's the mangaka that made Chainsaw Man. Me and Ewan talked about that on an episode that we did recently, and I absolutely adored that movie. All We Imagine Is Light, which is an incredible slice of life drama. Another one, that's my big genre for me. But the cinematography in this is some of the best I've seen all year, and the music is incredible. It's so beautiful. And then finally, I have overlap with Kevin's list as well. I have a Good One, which is a very, very, very good one. It's so good. So good. But I'll hand it off to you and I've been talking for so much.
Back to me. I think with the honorable mentions, I just sense that, rattling through these, which I will do, I think, with mine, is cruel. Because, like we said, it's so much good cinema this year. I have a ton on my list as well. I got to shout out Baby Girl, which just was great. Suleiman's Story. Bit of an overlap with last year still. American Fiction is on my list. Then My Sunshine, Neosora, definitely made it on mine. I think it has yet to premiere to like a larger audience, but really, really love that film. I Used to Be Funny, Rachel Sennett, I'm down for whatever she's in. You brought up Nosferatu, which I also had on my list before I realized we made a slight mistake that's going to pop up on the list later on. But hey, shout out from us. It definitely would have been on our honorable mentions. Just barely missed out on getting onto our top 10. The Quiet Son, a film that I got to see with Kevin in Venice. The same goes for The Promised Land the year before, but it came out this year. Great film with Mads Mikkelsen that you got to check out. The Girl with the Needle, something that's coming out soon, I think, with Mubi, that premiered at Gun, that definitely has to be on your radar, and it might even pick up an Oscar nomination for Norway. I also got the first Slam Dunk on here, and then Kevin brought up Sex. I got Love, which is part of this trilogy that also has Dreams in it, and it's this Norwegian film trilogy that we kind of fell in love with out of the festival circuit, and we can't wait to own the box set. I also have September 5, like Kevin, on my list, and I say 5, not 5th. All of Us Strangers on here as well, a bit of overlap, and then The Seed of the Sacred Fig, another film that is amazing, and then documentary shout out to No Other Land, a really, really, really important film that is one of the best documentaries, if not the best documentaries for some people. A really important film that is powerful. I can very much recommend it. And then I also got A Real Pain on my list. That kind of brings us to the end of all of those honorable mentions. I hope you were already, on your other screen, already looking at all the watch listable stuff that's on there. But again, the companion list should help you out if you want to quickly add those to your list, because there's a ton of great films. And we'll kick it off with the lowest rated films. We kind of did a ranking. Lachlan kind of put all of his math power together and gave us a score on all of these. So we have 31 films, 31 individual films out of the 40 picks. So that means we really don't have like 9 picks were kind of the same, right? I think that maths out. that math.
Sure.
And a lot of the other ones are like individual picks. So we'll start it off with a film that was Kevin's singular selection that made it very, very much last minute onto his list. All the Long Nights.
All the Long Nights, directed by Shou Miyake. Last year, with our 2023 list, literally the night before recording, I watched The Artifice Girl, and that made it into the top 10. This year, that honor goes to All the Long Nights. The director has made Small, Slow, but Steady. That movie made it in my top 15 of that year, but I believe this is an improvement on that. It's about 2 work colleagues. One suffers from panic attacks. The other has extreme PMS. Their company distributes Toy Planetarium. What may not sound like Ozzy Yasuyu. Whoa, what? I forgot to practice that last name. But you know the Ozzy movies? Yeah. It's actually precisely that. People are attentive and do each other good without even realizing. I absolutely loved All the Long Nights. I would say it's in the vein of Perfect Days, in the sense of just pure goodwill of the daily routine, people helping people out. And I'm honestly not going to say more than that. I fucking cried. Also, as you can see, it's about the planetariums. So after the movie, I literally laid in the snow. I watched the stars. There was a shooting star. I cried even more. What else do you want? Yeah.
You couldn't get me more keen, Kevin. This is cruel because none of us have seen this. So you're the only one who's seen it.
Exactly.
It is up on my watch list now. So I'll definitely be checking that out.
I'll tell you what. The way that you were just reading that synopsis, I thought you were just trying to remember how the movie, what happened in the movie, but it turns out that is exactly how it's written. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why are you reading it? And I'm like, oh, no, that's exactly how it's written. So I thought you were just freestyling what the story was about, but that's literally the synopsis on Letterboxd.
I actually put on a second synopsis below it because I thought it was an easier synopsis to read, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So let's go. It Letterboxd rating at 3.7. It only has been watched by 4,300 people on Letterboxd, so definitely give it a watch. On to the next one. Janet Planet, sorry.
Yeah, for Janet Planet, it's pretty low on Ewan's list, but I don't think Lachlan or Kevin have caught it yet.
Yeah.
It's about, in rural Western Massachusetts, 11-year-old Lacey spends the summer of 1991 at home, enthralled by her own imagination and the attention of her mother, Janet. As the months pass, 3 visitors enter their orbit, all captivated by Janet. I don't know, this movie really, really caught me by surprise when I first caught it. Luckily, I caught it in theaters. I think this movie has some of the best sound design of the past couple of years. I think the way that it focuses so much on this slice of life. Like I said, slice of life is a big genre for me. I find myself pretty enthralled easily by movies in this genre, but specifically for this movie, it pays so much attention to these small moments, and not even just these small moments, but the minute details of these small moments, whether it be like the someone's hair like flowing like through the wind and like sitting in the backseat of a car, or like even just watching someone like mow the lawn. Like, it's so obsessed with the particulars of like everyday life, but also using these particulars to explore a certain like loneliness and boring like mundanity that envelops a lot of children's lives, especially those that live with like single parents. Particularly Julianne Nicholson's performance in this movie is honestly one of my favorites of this year. I think the way she is able to perform as a parent and as a in these relationships that she's in, whether it be her as a friend or her in like a romantic relationship, it's just so incredible. And I really, really love movies about parental relationships and those that are either strained or those are just like too complicated to really pin down, and they use these slice of life moments to expand upon these relationships and sort of show details of your past, or like, you know, stuff that you've maybe forgotten about in your childhood. The relatability of this movie, I think, is pretty universal, but also really intimate. It's pretty incredible. I know no one else really had it on here, but I think
it was decent. What has to be noted, I think, with all of my ratings, if they're in the hundreds, I have on my list 450.
Yeah, you're flexing.
No, I'm not trying to flex. I'm giving you
If it's somewhere in my 250 to 300 region, like it's still a great movie.
I think I didn't connect with it, but I did definitely see all the stuff that Connor just described in it. It really has all of those things like in there, and for those who connect with that, I think it's a great little film.
I haven't seen it, but I did scroll to it because, you know, I made a montage. You can go check that out. But as I scroll to it, you really like honed into what I was thinking the movie was about. And I'm kind of excited to see it now because I also got that same vibe with All Night Long, like that slice of life movie. So I'm really keen to go watch Janet Planet.
Yeah, same. It's been on my watch list for ages. Next up, which these are all been tied in terms of where they scaled on the list.
Yeah.
And it was hinted at with Connor, and I think that a lot of you guys would have had it in your honorable mentions. I know that it's sitting at like spot 21 for you, Connor, on your list, 25 for Ewan. Kevin, I'm not going to lie, I can't see it on your list, so I don't even know if you've got it in there.
Oh, it's somewhere in the 50s.
Okay, somewhere in that region. I kind of am going off of my top 10 was just what kind of sat with me. In our review, we spoke about how we think that this was a technical marvel, and just before I get into that, I should tell you what it's about. It's from Robert Eggers, and it's a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. Honestly, the synopsis is a great little segue into what I felt was the least impactful part of the film, which was the actual narrative and overall story flow in terms of pacing. I felt that was its weakest point in comparison to the rest of Eggers' absolutely phenomenal filmography, but it was a technical marvel. Like, it was just fantastic with how the camera work played out. You said it in your review, and it's a rare thing that people point out, but blocking of characters within a space, within a scene, was quite spectacular. I pointed it out in the review, the opening to that with the camera flow through the village, It just felt super busy, which then later on, when it was desolate and empty, it just had that bigger impact with how monumental that opening was. And it felt that Eggers has finally found, this perfect balance of, here's a decent amount of cash, and here's a really good movie that I'm going to make with this decent amount of cash. And he's always just kept scaling that up. Little cash makes a little movie. The Witch, fantastic. And he's just kept scaling that up, which is why I had to get it into this top 10. I was in and out whether I should have it in there. But again, this movie has kind of sat with me for the past, what has it been, like a week since I've seen it? And a lot like of these other films that I watched kind of sat with me for like a good couple of days or a good week or so. And Nosferatu was sat there. The images of the horses and carting, like coming towards you from the darkness, that silhouette of Nicholas Hoult in it. Everyone's a bit iffy about Lily Rose Depp, but I super loved it. And honestly, Bill Skarsgård, his moustache should just be nominated for something. Like, that was just like like fundamental moustache acting. So yeah, Nosferatu, fantastic film. It's honestly as well, as you said, just past 1 million watch on Letterboxd as well. So very popular. Probably his most popular to date from Eggers.
Well, to segue into a movie that has a similar budget, has $50 million in its budget, is Luca Guadagnino's Queer, which is his second movie of the year. Challengers being obviously his most popular, but this one I feel like was a kind of a sneaky pick for me, because I feel this was his passion project this year. This was one that I know that he approached the screenwriter of Challengers, Justin Kuritzkis, to like the writing of this adaptation. So he wanted this to be done within the same time frame as Challengers, when he had access to as much money as he had. With how much money he had for this movie, it's kind of insane seeing what he has accomplished. All these sets are really like eccentric and kind of doll-like. They feel like you're kind of peering into like sort of like a make-believe, like kind of like dollhouse. Like, I don't know how to describe it. And all these characters feel like they're like stop motion creations. Like, it's very impressionistic in that way. Even extending from what you were talking about with Robert Eggers' film, seeing him sort of adapt a story like this with a budget like this, and with like not much like creative constraints placed up on him. I really love what Luca was able to do here, and Daniel Craig's performance is maybe my favorite of the year. I would have to look back into some of my favorite performances, but he delivers just an incredible performance that is teetering between embarrassing sort of horniness and a really honest, like vulnerable self that opens itself up in the latter half. But he's just such an interesting character, and William Burroughs has a really eclectic bibliography, but like comparing this to something like Naked Lunch, which is another Burroughs adaptation, I feel like Queer is going to stand the test of time. It's going to be a really great double feature with Naked Lunch, with Cronenberg's film, and we'll just have to see how it ages, because I feel like this is going to be one of people's favorite Luca films in the next coming years. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it is one that has been seen by Kevin and me, and I think he has also in his 50s. I have it at spot 111. Lachlan, you haven't caught up with it yet. I don't think it's out anywhere digitally yet. We'll review it, I think, again, because spoiler alert, we'll see challenges later on the list. And I think with all of these, you obviously saw it in the title card just before, but these are like all a four-way tie at spot number 20-25. So there's a couple of films that got like the same amount of points here, but it only popped up on your number 9 spot. Being out in theaters, already having been seen by 139,000 people, and logging in on Letterboxd, it's pretty decent. And I think I would also definitely shout out Daniel Craig's performance. That's, to me, the strongest thing about Queer.
Next up, it's Escape from the 21st Century. From director Li Yang, the story follows 3 friends who discover they have the power to travel back and forth 20 years with a sneeze. However, the future is not as good as they hoped, and they need to take on the responsibility of saving the world. For a moment, there was another Beaver movie that was, the funniest movie of the year. But to me, Escape from the 21st Century is the funniest movie of the year. It is absolutely bonkers. I, by the way, pulled the synopsis from IMDb, because if I had told you the synopsis from Letterboxd, it would not make any fucking sense, and I'm not even joking. So if you want to visit that synopsis, and read it for yourself. But there's only one other person here who actually enjoyed Escape from the 21st Century.
It's in my top half of the list.
I don't care. You have 450 whatever fucking movies.
And it's at spot 100, 201. It's not a bad rating. I'll be quiet.
Sing some praises with me for Escape from the 21st Century.
It's good. Nah, dude, look. There are sometimes, like, Hundreds of Beavers is a fantastic example of, you know, when you're just hanging out with friends and you just come up with the most, like, you have the stupidest ideas, you have the dumbest journeys that you take. A fantastic example is when I was younger, I rode a bike at like 4 from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. around 4 different suburbs, and that's like a key memory I have in my brain. And it's like, I was so young back then that I could just imagine I could sneeze and travel back in time. This movie gave me that sort of fundamental, like, enjoyment. It was not meant to be taken seriously. You were meant to just enjoy it, very much like Hundreds of Beavers, which is a fantastic, great movie to compare this to. In no way are they similar, but it is just a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, and we have movies like that. And a fantastic example that people have been giving is Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's an example of a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, but definitely on a Western side of filmmaking. This is on a different side of filmmaking, and it's even though it's set in a completely different place and on a completely different language, you can still feel that fundamental fun enjoyment that is universal across no matter where you're from. So this movie, even though it's not in my top 10, ranked at number 16, stupid fun, and that is amazing praise.
This is what cinema was made for. You say Everything Everywhere All at Once, by the way. I think it's more of a Stephen Chow sci-fi comedy, which funnily enough, like, I was thinking about that as I was writing it, and I saw that sentiment online. I was like, yeah, because it truly is more that direction than, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's like the easy comparison. So if you like Stephen Chow, if you like Everything Everywhere All at Once, then definitely check out Escape from the 21st Century, which is the most bonkers movie of 2024.
From the most bonkers movie of 2024 to the most memeable movie of 2024, let's hold space, everybody, and talk about Wicked for a second here. When ostracized and misunderstood green-skinned Elphaba is forced to share a room with the popular aristocrat Gerlinda, the two's unlikely friendship is tested as they begin to fulfill their respective destinies as Gerlinda, the good, and the wicked witch of the West. Now, all 4 of us have seen this.
Yeah.
It is definitely more positively skewed for me than the rest of you, who's got it at spot 107, 200 plus, which is just a very vague spot for Kevin, and 212 from Connor. And I'm the only one with a single digit at spot number 9, so I guess I shall talk the praise of Wicked. And did you guys not feel the magic to this movie? Did you not have the spark, the joy?
You mean
or am
CGI?
I smoked too much before I went and watched this movie and enjoyed it way too much.
The music's very good.
Yeah,
the music
The music is very good, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I rewatched this week. I went and saw it with my girlfriend, and all I will say is the ending of this film is fantastic. And the only reason I say that is it ends on a high. Most movies don't end on the high. They literally end after the high, at the come down, the close of everything, right? We don't get all the way to Mordor, drop the ring into the fucking lava, and then the end of the movie, right? This film ends on the high, says to be continued. A little bit annoying for some, but for me was super enjoyable. And I won't lie, the music is great. I literally got goosebumps again listening to Defying Gravity. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's my first time experiencing Wicked. I never saw the stage musical ever. And my girlfriend liked it. She gave it 5 stars, so she gives it a vote of approval. And if she likes Wicked, because she likes Wicked, even the stage play, the musical, she's seen that, and I haven't, I feel like I'm able to say that I'm not the odd one out in saying that I'm giving it at my 9 position, because I feel very ostracized with all of you having it at 100 plus.
I liked it.
Yeah, I saw it twice. I really liked it. I mean, I think my only
Yeah.
thing is that because everything is so practical, like you see the sets in the featurettes or whatever, and you see everything they've built and everything they plan to show in the movie, and then knowing that John Chu like put blue screen all over the movie and then like made sure that like anytime they shot outside, they had controlled lighting. It's like I just wish that what was there was like similar to the stage play. Everything seemed to be like on the right track, and then he got on board, and then everything kind of fell apart. At least to me, that's my only problem.
Look, do I think the movie is perfect? No, but this movie has stuck with me. In fact, it is sometimes now in my car when I drive. Sometimes I get the soundtrack that's coming through.
It's a banger.
It's a real banger. I just think it deserves a moment, not only for the movie that we got, but the memes that we got. So let's all just...
The memes that we got along the way.
Well, it's going to have a moment for at least like a year until that new one comes out.
No,
And then we're gonna have
I can't
another
wait.
year with
I
that,
can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait till I'm done with Wicked for good.
Why? Why do you hate Wicked so much? It's only at like spot 200 plus for you.
Have you seen his first two picks? He loves to be a contrarian. So
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
No, but look. Like a wise man called Jose Mourinho said, "If I speak, I'm in trouble." So that's all I'll say.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's widely popular.
But I have to ask: does any one of you know Jose Mourinho?
Well, I know that if I speak, I'm in trouble. That's like, you know.
Oh, but you don't know the guy.
I'm well versed in memes,
Yeah.
but not in the actual source of it all.
Yeah, I knew the meme, but your person I didn't know. I was like, who the fuck is this that you...
I'm the only one cultured in football. It's okay.
Yeah, let's take down the pretentious level of it all. We need some action. We need some. Well, never mind. I actually do have another pretty small drama on here that premiered earlier this year at the Sundance Film Festival. It's the last spot number 25 with the four-way tie. It comes from director Sean Wang, and it takes place in 2008, and it's this perfect time capsule that we also reviewed it on the podcast, and I think Lachlan and I both really connected with it. I have it at my spot number 9. For him, it's at 14. For Kevin at 28. For Connor at 67. Damn, okay. Maybe you're a bit younger than us, I guess. But no, I feel like this perfectly kind of captures that time in a really, really good way. And maybe like he's a couple of years older than us, but we still kind of connected to that sort of feeling of being lost as a teenager, and like I don't know, maybe having your first crush, but then it also has like that sort of like biracial identity crisis that he kind of goes under, and who he's supposed to be friends with, and all of that I think is done in the best possible way to me. I love a great coming of age drama, and Kevin and I, as we go to like these festivals, oftentimes, or even Lachlan and I, a lot of them are coming of age dramas that aren't well done, and this is just kind of the perfect version of it to me. Like it's really, really good, and yeah, I loved it. It only it's got less than 200k logs on Letterboxd, and I think it deserves to be seen a bit more. I only got good things to say about Didi. Don't clip that out of context.
While I was watching it, I couldn't stop thinking about 8th grade. And I'm like, if 8th grade is S tier, then Didi is A tier. That's the only reason why it isn't that much higher for me.
I know Ewan mentioned it, but I feel like the racial element is really important to this movie, especially Sean Wang coming from a Taiwanese background, and there's like that moment in the movie that obviously, like, it might be a spoiler, but it's just like a drama moment, but where like he lies to his friends about being like biracial, and like just so he can like he wants to assimilate more, and it's like those elements I feel like make this movie really unique, especially on rewatch. I know it's pretty low on my list. I might need to rewatch it again, but like even on rewatch, I noticed just like a lot of things that are very particular to the early and late 2000s, but like especially with how racism was dealt with in middle school and like high school during this time, and everywhere, obviously, but like especially in schools. I agree with you, and I obviously it's not as high for me, but I think that this movie is really unique, and I think it stands pretty uniquely aside from 8th grade.
Yeah, even from an Asian perspective, like there's a movie called Rice Boy Sleeps from last year, which I loved. You got Minari, and again, those movies are a bit more interesting to me than Didi was.
I think the online element is like one of my favorite parts too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We discussed that as well when we did it on the podcast. Stuff, just how, Lachlan?
I remember making videos on my iPod Nano, uploading them to YouTube, and some of them were skating, and then finding out people found out about them, and then deleting them. So that side I totally related with, and I was like, okay, you know what? Somehow Sean Wang has like gone, yeah, you know what? This is universal. Everyone's made YouTube videos and then gone, oh fuck, no, I don't have that on there. The internet, no, I deleted it. So yeah. That little element, and I was like, you know what? Now I feel like it's a coming of age story that's told for me.
And then, next up, we do have spot number 20. There's a three-way tie with 3 movies, I guess. It's Rebel Ridge that's coming up next, and I think, Connor, for you, that one's on your top 10.
A former Marine confronts corruption in a small town when local law enforcement unjustly seizes the bag of cash he needs to post his cousin's bail. I'll just say it, like, this is my favorite Jeremy Saulnier movie. I think it's better than Green Room. I think it's better than Blue Ruin. I think it accomplishes something that Saulnier has been really striving for with his past couple of works. I think the fact that he was able to get this made is pretty incredible, especially with the budget he had. I think he was around like 20-30 million, but I think the lengths this movie goes to being as like violent it can be without having any actual like murder is pretty incredible. I think like the fact that like they're using this this tactic that a lot of police are using in the States called like less than lethal. The way they use this term throughout the movie, especially in the actual choreography itself, the action in this movie is some of the best I've seen all year. I think the way that Saulnier films, especially like car chases and sequences that involve like sort of a dolly cam where it's like following like a person running or driving or something like that. The intensity of every like moment of this movie is so tangible and felt. I've watched this movie like 5 times at this point. It's one of my most watched movies of last year. Yeah, I can't get enough of this movie.
Is it the best Netflix movie of this year?
I would have to look.
Probably
for me, it's my favorite. I don't really know.
I
what
guess
else
Daughters is also on there, which I guess when you look at
that's true. Actually,
we'll get to that later on. But it ranks pretty high for all of us, I think. And the specialist, I guess, for action is Kevin, and for you, it's I don't know where it ranks for you. It's spot number 20, you say?
Yeah.
For me, it's at 40. For Lachlan, at 45. So I think we already.
I will say it's not the best action sequence. Like in terms of action, it isn't the best one. But what Jeremy Saulnier is the best at is building up to a set action, and that he does like
build. Yeah.
Like you could compare that to Sicario in the way that he builds up to action. He's as
That's a
good
great comparison
at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember that scene with the acronyms between Aaron Pierre Johnson and Don Johnson. It's like that scene is one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite scene of last year. Like that scene is so like badass in a way that I don't really think I've like felt like that in a movie in forever. And I feel like Aaron Pierre Johnson, he is the all-star like find of this year for me. I loved him in Underground Railroad, but this movie is like he is just. I know this movie is originally supposed to cast John Boyega. I know he
I was about to ask.
Called it off. Yeah, and so like seeing like the switch between these two actors and seeing Aaron like so capable in this kind of movie, I don't know. He's insane. I love that guy.
It might be cringe to say, but is his aura in the movie?
Oh, his aura. No, not cringe at all. That's essentially what I think when we only briefly discussed it on the podcast, but there's such a vibe, and like his voice just adds to the whole atmosphere of this guy who you know is gonna fuck shit up if he needs to, while not going to the extent of like lethal or just like violence, but disarming. This like and bringing him to a breaking point where there's no other like that to me, like that tension building is what's the best thing about Rebel Ridge.
Yeah, and there's like a small moment I'll just mention that where like they're trying to look him up on like what he was deployed in war.
He's on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, it's like he's literally in the picture in the Wikipedia. Like that's crazy. That's such a good moment. Oh my god.
I have it in spot 45. I really should have it lower than that. I kind of threw my like in my 40 region is kind of like really messy at the moment because I'll get to the movie that I kind of replaced this one with in my head, because every single thing Connor just said is going to be said in a moment from me in a different film that just kind of took it away from me. But what I will say about this particular film is I agree with all the action stuff, but I think this is probably one of my biggest surprises. Like, I didn't hear anything about this film. It just popped up on Netflix, and all of a sudden it was just like, holy shit. Like, I was going into it expecting it to be like a crappy thriller. Just be like, oh, yeah, it's a 2.5 star, 3-star kind of thing. But no, man. The tension was great. The action was fun. The performances were incredible. I laughed a little bit when it was kind of just like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, oh, he's going to be John Wick. Oh, no, he's just a, I don't know, Joe Rogan. Like, he's basically doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's all he's really doing. So I was like, this is so much action for just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I agree. I think that the action, while maybe not being the most big and glorious, was choreographed incredibly, shot fantastically. I remember him just like touching the car as he was going past in that gunfight, waiting, you pause, the camera pauses, and then all of a sudden something happens, like a big loud explosion, then he pushes again. Like, it just felt methodical, and calm action is just as important as heavy action. So that's why I think this movie is 100% deserving of number 8 spot. Yeah, 100%. That's a good position for where you put it.
There was a story on the set. So at one moment, Evan Pierre character has to drag someone across the ground, and they had like wires for it. But they said like, "Nah, I want to do it one time for real." And apparently, all the crew on the set were like, "Wait, what did he just say?" And so they said like, "Fine, we'll give you one time." And then they went for it, and it's actually made it into the movie, which, again,
Nice.
Such stories like that in action filmmaking is what excites me about the genre. So that's my favorite filmmaking story of the year too, I guess.
And then Kevin, I think the next one coming up is also spot number 8 on your list this time.
You know, Lachlan earlier said, about the movie that just kept growing and growing on me. I like to throw the term grower around a lot on this channel.
He does.
Obviously, just because these movies grow in your mind. And yeah, Sing Sing is one of them. Obviously, Ewan was gone 1 week to, I believe, the pyramids in Egypt. So Lachlan and I did an episode, and we covered Sing Sing on there. And we both said this movie is very, very close to that 9 out of 10 one, but we have a couple of issues with them. It's been growing my mind, and obviously I've made the montage. There is a scene in there from Sing Sing, and the more I watched that scene, the more I went back to the movie and watched a couple of other scenes from it, the more I realized it's honestly a top 10 movie. It's about Divine G imprisoned at Sing Sing for a crime he didn't commit, finds purpose by acting in theater group alongside other incarcerated men in this story of resilience, humanity, and the transformative power of art. And again, I like with Rebel Ridge, obviously, the filmmaking story of how this movie came to be, how it's divided among the crew, of how many people own this movie, and the fact that one of the incarcerated men actually got released for wrongful murder adds so many layers to it. It's pretty sort of low on your guys' list compared to mine. Ewan had that 33, Lachlan had that 25, Connor had it at 56, but I think the overall consensus is this is one of the best views of the movie with a 4.3 rating. And yeah, I don't know if y'all have anything to add.
I think it's to me like one of, if not the best ensemble film of the year. Just because it uses the actual people part of that theater program, right? So you really get some sort of really authentic like performance out of it, and it ends up working. To me, I had a similar feel because I ended up watching your montage quite a bit as well, as you were doing it. And that scene, the way it sticks out of that film, and there's a bunch of like really good moments in there. It's just amazing, and I really adore it too. I think spot number 33 is really high on my list. It's not like it's low.
Yeah, because you got 440 movies.
Exactly, I'm the guy with the most. Bragging. Exactly, that's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, Clarence Macklin is in my top 3 supporting actors of the year.
It is it is a grower, not a shower. I guess for me, it's also I don't know.
It's a big list.
What you're saying, like, It's a big list.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is that true that it's only 76K logs on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
That is crazy. That is less than 100,000 people have logged this on Letterboxd. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I think it
definitely
had a
underwatched.
really big peak moment, and then it kind of dropped off because I remember hearing all about Sing Sing,
Yeah,
and then it just plummeted. So I'm not surprised by the 76K like logs at all.
I
Yeah.
just
Premiered
guess
at
it came
TIFF, I
out too
guess,
early
last
in the
year.
year.
No, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the TIFF premiere and then like early in the.
A24 screwed the release on this so
Yeah.
poorly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my god. Like, it's gonna re-release in January here, I believe.
Yeah. I believe it's re-released now, yeah.
But it's just like, man, I got to see this only by driving like 50 minutes from where I'm at to like see it, which is like might not seem like a lot, but like to an everyday person that doesn't really know about this movie, I'd imagine that like people that
a
aren't
long
aware this
way.
movie exists aren't gonna see it.
Yeah.
No.
And it's up there that it would get awards contention, but if it doesn't get in there, that makes it even harder for people to seek it out, even if there's A24. Because like that brand has been doing so much this year, even with
Mhm.
stuff that people kind of connected more towards like more maybe misses than hits. I don't know if A24 has had the strongest year. Like all of the films like Baby Girl, Queer, they've all been pretty divisive.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, Sing Sing is this year's Come On, Come On.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good.
That's an apt
comparison.
comparison. Yeah.
I think one word I would like to describe Sing Sing with, and it's a one you don't get to really describe with, but I think it's raw, if that makes any sense. Like you watch this movie and you just go, like you can't go and watch this movie after you've just had, you know, your dog die or something like that, right? Like you can't go in and just watch Sing Sing. Like you have to be in a right state of mind because it is honestly quite a heart-wrenching movie. Even though really narratively not a lot happens, but you feel a lot just from the performances. And when we were doing the Kevin and Lachlan spectacular episode whilst Ewan was away, and we covered Sing Sing, one of the things we talked about so much about Sing Sing wasn't so much the technical stuff, but all the things that happen behind the scenes, all of the actual like real life imprisonments, you know, or at least false imprisonments, and then they came out like 25 years later after they were sentenced for 25 years, and they were like, oh yeah, nothing actually happened, but, you know, behind the scenes, so much of this happened, so much happened behind the scenes, from not only how they paid people in this film, but how they kind of approached it and told this story. So not only is like this film absolutely spectacular, but I think that there is so much more behind the scenes that is just as important as the story that we got told on the screen, which is why I like to use the word raw.
And I mean, to your point that like not much like might happen, just like, you know, in terms of like the narrative, I do think that's a part of that speaks to how little like prisoners are given in these prisons. Like they're not given much to even do or work with at all, which only leads them to further like spiral into either like mental health crises or like just you know, crime within these prisons. And so I feel like this movie, whenever it does have these moments of just pure like artistic joy between these characters and these actors, I feel like it's able to show like the like stark contrast between like their life in prison and their life in this like theater troupe or theater group. I personally, like, it's not high on my list, but I have a very like personal attachment that I might go into further on another movie that we're going to talk about later on. But this movie, when I first saw it, I really like was just thinking, I'm like, I hope as many people as possible can see this movie. And I do really hope that more people can see this movie as it does a re-release. But I agree with you guys. It's kind of low on my list. I think it's like 56. But I'm still thinking about this movie. I'm still thinking about these performances. Still thinking about like the behind the scenes story, like Lachlan was talking about. But yeah, I could not praise it as much as you guys, but I sincerely hope that it gets any kind of traction for the award show.
And the last thing I will say about this movie is I can't wait to see which program Paul Raci will be a leader of next time. Like, he already has Sound of Metal, he has Sing Sing. I don't know what program he's doing next, but I'm there for it. And now it's time to have some order in this recording.
specifically The Order from Justin Kurtzel, an Aussie director, and this film is about a string of violent robberies in the Pacific Northwest, which leads a veteran FBI agent into a domestic terrorist plot to overthrow the federal government. Now, this one isn't as divisive. I've got it at number 8. We've got 53 from Ewan. Kevin's got 40. Connor's at 74. Now, I understand that this film isn't fantastic, but there are key elements to this that I've just constantly been thinking about since watching it a couple weeks ago. And I watched Juror number 2 one night, and then I watched this the next, and I thought Juror number 2 was going to be one that sticks with me, because honestly, it was like very thought-provoking, but for some reason, The Order has stuck around. And Ewan, you know, if I ever had the opportunity to make a movie, it would be FBI agents in the Pacific Northwest, because that is one of my favorite visual, like, blue fucking wind jackets, big yellow FBI murder scene. That just oh man, I saw that one scene with it in there, and I was just like, yep, 10 out of 10, perfect film. But it's not a 10 out of 10 perfect film. But what it does do is something really interesting and gives me some really morally grey characters. Because at first I was like, yeah, I really like Jude. Oh no, I don't like Jude Law. Oh yeah, he got someone killed. Oh yep, he got someone killed. Okay, yeah, that's not. Oh okay, yeah, he's not really a good guy, is he? Then why am I supporting him? And then you also get this weird moment where Nicholas Hoult, who plays a white supremacist spin-off terrorist group, and you're kind of looking at him and you're kind of getting a very oh okay, I see why you're going down this avenue. You're secluded, you don't have this opportunity. You kind of are confused on why the quote-unquote bad guy is being made more human and the quote-unquote good guy is being made more of the villain, or at least is made not perfect. And for me, that is just exciting to watch. I got so many True Detective Season 1 vibes from this film, and that is just like peak television. I love Jude Law so much. Nicholas Hoult is having a moment. Ty Sheridan, I completely forget he's in this film because his character is completely forgettable. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I don't know what it was. The action, like, yes, they shoot like stormtroopers and they never hit anything. But like, I just, the sound design to this, the shotguns, the guns were just like so good. Do any of you kind of agree to this, or am I just ranting about a film that actually is kind of shit?
I mean, I agree with you in the sense that like when you mentioned that like they can't hit for shit, like their aim is really bad.
Can they?
I think it works for the movie because it's not like showing these police officers as like particular, or these FBI agent. Oh my god, these FBI agents as particularly smart or you know good at their job. But I think it's like a testament to how bad a lot of police and like FBI like institutions are. Like they're so horrible at actually addressing crime, putting like people like in custody, and like actually putting people that like deserve incarceration. The way that they show the contrast between this police force and this institution with the white supremacists and their institution, I think goes to show the like inherent evil that is like baked into America, especially this time of America. And I think the movie, even though, like you said, it's directed by an Australian director, is very aware the inherent evil that is just simmering in America for like since the dawn of this country. And I think like comparing this to like other films that like are about like the police force and stuff like that, I think of Rebel Ridge in the sense that like they're both addressing corruption within these institutions and showing how, despite the like goodwill of certain people, like I think Taylor Sheridan, or what's that? Not Taylor Sheridan. What's the character's name?
Ty Sheridan.
His character is trying his best to actually take down this white supremacist group. Despite that, the institution and the institutions at play, as well as this actual group that is just carrying out these crimes, these issues are too big and too entrenched in the culture of this country to just stop with just either one bullet or, you know, one person being killed or incarcerated or whatever. It's too big for that. But Jude Law, incredible performance. I think he's really, really good in this. He's kind of fierce and weird and Like, there's moments of this that remind me of like Matthew McConaughey's performance in True Detective. Honestly, this movie reminds me of True Detective in general. And I don't know. I agree. I think it's honestly lower on my list than Ewan's or Kevin's. But the more you've talked about it, the more you've convinced me that I might need to give it a second shot.
I think Kevin.
Give me 5 more minutes and it'll be your number one.
You wanna have the word, Ewan?
I mean, I'll just say that I think it's really good. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. I think it's a really good crime thriller that, like Lachlan said, has some great characters on either side. The way that it focuses on these humans who all have flaws, but are like part of their systems, that they, one the police, the other one this kind of white supremacy thing that they're trying to find a belonging in. And they're both sort of leaders, so like that kind of comparison, mirroring that it's really fascinating. It's not perfect, but it's pretty thrilling. So that's all I'd ask of a good crime film. So
Again, the only reason this movie isn't high on my list is because I've seen it done better. And with that, I'm referring to Mississippi Burning. Ewan actually brought this up as my double feature pick, but he said it was for the action, which totally wrong. I'm sorry to call you on that, Ewan, but totally wrong. No, it's because of the depth. And the order is focusing on this book that's been banned in America by now, I believe, because it was inspiring QAnon members and inciting violence as portrayed in the order. And I thought the order just didn't dive into that deep enough and kept some things on the background too much for me to believe, oh, these guys are super, super, super dangerous. And I've just felt like, oh yeah, these guys are a menace, sure, but I'm not feeling like these are the top tier terrorists in the region. Yeah, that's for that reason, the order isn't that much higher on my list than it is. But of course, it's solid. It's very solid, but it's just not as solid as Rebel Witch for me, or something. But I'm really looking forward to Justin Kurzel's next picture, because like in Nitram, the order, he's definitely onto something, and I believe he can get better and better in set range he's operating at now with each film he's making next.
And then we got Broken Rage. This is a filmmaker, Takashi Kitano, who Kevin has put me on to recently. And don't be surprised if at some point in 2025 we'll actually do like a Roll That Again retrospective, looking at more of his films, because he has such a vast filmography that is interesting to see. This one is not out yet, so it might as well pop up on our best of 2025 list, because it is, to me, apart from another more slapsticky movie, this also has like that in it, the funniest film of the year. Just I think the one that we enjoyed the most coming out of Venice was this, because the audience was just here for it. They, before the movie even started clapping well into the film, multiple minutes. It felt like a standing ovation as we just like started rolling as the film began. And it's, the concept of this film is also really, really interesting, because it is like barely over an hour long, and we get two halves that are roughly 30 minutes long, where we get to see a hitman named Nezumi fight for his survival when he's caught between the police and the Yakuza. And the premise of this film is that in the first half we get basically like a bit more of a more serious crime drama, like we get that crime thriller aspect, and then the second half is just a comedy, but it's the same story. And the way that you feel like that is going to play out is not how it's going to play out. It subverts your expectations. It is hilarious. It's my number 8 spot for Kevin. It is just barely outside of the top 10 at spot number 13. It will hopefully come out soon on Amazon Prime. It says on 2025. We'll get that, and then we will sing its praises again, because holy shit, Broken Rage is so much fun.
I need to see it so bad. I'm a huge fan of Takeshi Kitano. Like, I think his film Fireworks is like one that I love so much, and the score for that movie is incredible. I think that score for that movie is done by the guy that composes the music for the Ghibli movies, Hisashi or something like that. So he's a really like important figure in like Japanese cinema, and ever since I heard this thing like released at Venice, I've just, man, I need to see this movie so bad.
I mean, I've seen 5 of his films, and my favorite so far is Kids Return, which again is a movie you needs to see.
We're definitely gonna review it once I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Broken Rage just combines Takeshi Kitano's strengths into one movie, and actually into two halves, because he's known for these crime movies, So Nothing, Violent Cop, and he's known for these very comedic films. He's also had a very lengthy comedy career on TV, so he's very famous for that as well in Japan. And this movie just combines those strengths and churns out something absolutely beautiful, funny. And again, some of the gags in the movie, we would.
They made me
talk
crack
about
up
it
just
non-stop.
thinking about it right now. It's so
Exactly.
funny. It is so funny. Months later, it is.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
You still get a giggle out of it months after you've seen it.
Yeah.
So we just can't recommend this movie enough, basically,
Yeah.
is what we're saying.
Definitely.
And next up, we got The Wild Robot, which, Lachlan was earlier complaining he had the movie in a single digit. Well, I have a movie here in a single digit that nobody else had. It's 174th on Ewan's list, which as right now we mean it means fuck all, because your list is that big. Lachlan had it at 35, Connor had it at 45, I had it at number 7. I love The Wild Robot that much. After the shipwreck, an intelligent robot called Ross is stranded on an inhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Ross bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose. I cried at this movie. And as you
Can
know...
I say something controversial?
What?
Are you okay if
What-
I
what
say
you
something
going-
controversial?
Are you gonna piss me off?
So, ever since I watched The Wild Robot, I just couldn't help but feel that The Wild Robot was an Oscar bait animated movie.
If I speak, I'm in trouble.
Does anyone else feel the same way that the Wild
it's
Robot?
an Oscar bait version.
It's
an
an
Oscar bait
Oscar
version
bait-
of Flow. It's an Oscar bait version of Flow. That's what it is.
Kevin is done.
I feel like I had to point it
Oh,
out because I saw all the praise The Wild Robot is getting, and I know it's like don't get me wrong, I quite like it. I know this is your moment to talk about The Wild Robot, but I feel like it's a moment that we should also point out that The Wild Robot is an Oscar bait movie. I didn't add Flow. That was all Connor. Adding Flow. I didn't
That was
add that,
me,
but
yeah.
I agree with it.
Look, it is pretty low on my list. And when I watched it, I think I saw it in August. And to me, I was like, I loved the first half. Like Kevin said, he cried. I think I also cried with this the moment where like he flies off and there's like that the kind of letting loose, letting someone go that you've cared for. And I love that ending point. And we touched on that quite a bit in our spoiler review as well. It just felt like everything after was such a cookie cutter version of a animated story that needed its like action beats to keep you engaged, when to me the best parts of it were in the first half, and then to me like that was on a 4-star, and then it just kind of kept going down for me. So I don't hate this film. I think it's probably the best looking animated film of the year. It really is stunning.
Debatable.
Well, we'll see. We have a couple of different animated films that will pop up later on in this list, but yeah, for us, I guess for the Oscar contenders, the big boys of animation. I'm sorry, Kevin. I guess it
Despicable
was
Me 4.
our least favorite.
Yeah,
Of course, that's at number one. You just spoiled our number one. Luckily, you can't do
Sorry.
that. There's just, like,
Sorry,
no-
fuck, sorry. Best looking animated movie, Mufasa. Sorry.
No. It's Marmaduke. I'm putting that in my top 10.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, from 2 years ago.
But no, Kev, how disappointed are you? I don't hate the film. I think it's just I guess there's a bit more animosity coming from Connor because he has a different.
I have it high. Like I cried too. Like I'm not gonna like lie. And
We
say I
all
didn't
cry,
like
man.
it.
That doesn't mean anything.
Am I the only one who didn't
cry?
cry? I
No,
didn't
no.
cry to this movie. I'm sorry.
I enjoyed it. And I think the animation is absolutely beautiful. And
Yeah.
like my only thing is that when I saw Flo afterwards, I just thought like the dialogue in this movie and the voice acting was just so unnecessary. Not that like you can't have voice acting in it, but
From a
some of
movie
the
that had
actual
no
beats-
dialogue, he's comparing it
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I am because it's about animals. It's like why
I
do we
watched
need to hear the
Flo. There was
animals
no
talk?
dialogue. It made me hate the dialogue of the Wild Robot.
It did.
No, there's a moment, literally a moment in the movie where the robot is sitting down and trying to interpret everyone's language. It's one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie. What do you mean?
It
Yeah,
is.
I
It is. But
love
what's
the
the
first
result?
half.
What's the result? Pedro Pascal being a fox. Was that what
So
you
I
were
watched
telling me?
Megalopolis, and then I went and watched Synecdoche, New York, and I went back and I hated
I'm so done.
Megalopolis more.
Shit.
But no, I mean, ultimately, I think this top best of 2024 is about spotlighting, and obviously, there's a lot to resonate with you in The Wild Robot, and for you, Kevin, it did, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot to resonate.
You know, I'm a cold son, heart of a bitch.
Oh
And
yeah.
that didn't make sense, but whatever.
But no,
It takes
just like
enough.
that.
It takes a lot for me to tear up. You know that.
It does, yeah.
And the Wild Robot did.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here singing his praises. But y'all are trying to drag me down. I don't know why. You're
Like,
trying to drag me down.
get the Steva stage. She definitely needs to accept an award or something, which is what the Wild Robot is trying to do.
You know, we talked about broken rage. Right now, I'm a broken man.
Yeah, well, let's move on, I guess. I feel like it's popular enough, that even with the three of us not loving it and you praising it, it's fine. It's like at spot 217 currently on like the all-time Letterboxd list. I think the Wild Robot can. I also, this is the first time I'm not saying the Iron Giant, and I'm so proud of myself.
Do you want to circle back to Wicked, and I'll let you say something controversial about Wicked?
No, let's. Otherwise, we'll break Kevin. We shouldn't. When a man is down, don't punch him even more. But we got spot number 18, which is another two-way tie with two films. Let's kick it off with the one that is at Connor's number 6 spot.
Yeah, so Daughters is at my number 6 spot. It's directed by Angela Patton and Natalie Ray. It's about 4 young girls who prepare for a special Daidar dance with their incarcerated fathers as a part of a unique fatherhood program in a Washington, D.C. Jail. And this movie is very personal to me. I think the fact that this movie is able to portray the lives of these fathers and their children and their partners so vividly without actually telling you why these fathers are in prison is really powerful, especially considering like we don't need to know why they're in prison. The idea that prison is able to strip these people of all their individuality, and the fact that we already know that prisons falsely incarcerate a lot of people, and especially people of color and black people, it's very intentional in the sense that it doesn't tell you what these fathers are in prison for, but the emotions at the core of this movie, especially for these daughters, for these young girls that are growing up without a father and without this parental figure in their life, and they're trying to sort of rebuild their lives after everything has happened, and despite how their fathers are in prison, and like they're trying their best to reconnect with their children through this Daidar dance, the movie is able to really show the honesty of the situation and show how these like their partners and their children they don't want to see their fathers again after what happened with their falling out, or maybe the bridge that this Daidar dance has created has kind of like reopened the wound that was closed when their father went to prison. And I think this movie, in terms of documentaries this year, this one impacted me the most. I think the way that all these people and all these lives are fused so lovingly, but also so honestly, is so powerful and really speaks to the power of filmmaking to me. And I think that final scene, I don't want to call it scene, but the final moment of the movie that I'm not going to spoil, between the youngest girl and her father over the phone is just, it's so heartbreaking, but so true to the experience of children growing up with incarcerated fathers. Coming from personal experience, I think it really spoke to me and gave me a moment to sort of reflect on that time in my life, and able to like sort of forgive myself for being so angry and sort of just distraught at the situation at hand. And I think this movie is really powerful and really will stand the test of time in terms of documentary film. I think it should go to the Oscars for a nomination. And I don't know if you guys have anything else to say. I know. Actually, no. I think me and you are the only ones that have seen it.
We reviewed it on the channel as well. It's just I definitely urge you, because this is going to get Oscar nominated. I would be so surprised if it doesn't. This also is like worth your time. It's really good. So for both of you, bit of homework for Lachlan and Kevin. I think this is really.
I won't lie.
Well,
I watched like 4 documentaries last year. I don't seek documentaries. It's kind of like a weird spot for me, but it is something that I like. I remember, what was it last year? Like Fire of Love, the volcano one. Which I absolutely adored. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen documentaries this year. Billy and Molly, fantastic example of a documentary that I watched this year, that all for Kevin's enjoyment. But I actually have a number of these films. Daughters is a great example that really early on got onto my watch list. If I was to go through a list of things that I want to watch, I know this one is going to tug the heartstrings. So, I'm just gonna be like, all right, cool. The Order.
It's a pretty tough one. I mean, I got a review that I think a lot of people have resonated with it. I think I said like trying to recoup all the buckets of tears I cried, because it's heartbreaking at certain moments where I was just like multiple times just burst out into crying, into tears. So it's a pretty heavy one. So it's not like an easy watch, but it's amazing what they capture.
I think it's tough to beat as my favorite documentary of this year, because obviously you got No Other Land, and we got Black Box Diaries. It's been a great year for documentaries, but I'll watch Daughters to see if it breaks through.
Let's go. But you got one other spot that ties Daughters when it comes to our point system here, because it ranks at your number 6 spot as well, Kevin. And it's another film that we already reviewed on the channel, that you can find a bit more of an in-depth spoiler review for it. It's also the opening to your montage, and it's kind of weaved into it beautifully. I again, props to you. I think you nailed that. And obviously you're going to touch on the soundtrack, the score, but that one's also like great. But I like this quite a bit. It's at my spot number 61, but I'll give you the word. Things will be different.
Things will be different from Michael Felker. Again, a Felker picture. It sounds great. I have to say that every time I talk about the movie. But in order to escape the police after a robbery, two estranged siblings lay low in a metaphysical farmhouse that hides them away in a different time. There they reckon with a mysterious force that pushes their familial bonds to unnatural breaking points. And again, I'm so disappointed at seeing the rating for this. 3.0, only 3.8k log. Now, to be fair, that's a bit more than Escape the 21st Century, but still, it's way too low.
It's also way more easily accessible than
alright, fair.
Escape the 21st
But
Century.
Still,
so that's
it's way too low, Ewan.
Yeah,
it's way too low, and that hurts me, because this is such a smart sci-fi movie. Very smart. Just let even out the sci-fi part. It's a very smart movie that is
siblings drama as well.
Yeah, and I think the structure of it is so well done. And sure, people might watch this movie and say like, "Oh, there's not really much to it." But sometimes great entertainment and a great story can go really, really far. And Things Will Be Different did that for me. Like, again, so many reviewers saying, "Oh yeah, it's very solid. Wow, I really like these structures," and then don't really go looking for beyond it. But sometimes I'm satisfied with that. And Things Will Be Different again did that. We talked about it in our review. The score is bloody brilliant. The editing is very good because it's done by the editor of
Moorhead and Benson.
Moorhead, and Benson, right? He edited plenty of their films, so again, the editing is gonna be great. And Things Will Be Different did remind me a bit of a video game. Like it made me think a bit about Deathloop. It made me think about other sci-fi games, and I absolutely adored where this movie took their inspirations from. And I will be a Things Will Be Different defender until the end of my life.
Yeah, so definitely go check that one out. It's another bit of a hidden gem that hopefully will provide a bunch of them in our top 10s, which is what I love about them, that we have 31 different films that we get to highlight. And this other one, this next one is at spot number 15. There's a tie with 1, 2, 3 other films with it. It's another one of these animation contenders, and it's highest on Connor's list at spot number 4.
Yeah, I got this high. Honestly, this is a late edition in terms of how high it was. Originally, I think it was around 10 or 9, and then I saw it again in theaters. And I really, really appreciated that time around. It's about a solitary cat displaced by a great flood who finds refuge on a boat with various species. and must navigate the challenges of adapting to a transformed world together. I think this movie is animated so beautifully. It reminds me a lot of PS2 games I played when I was younger. I think David Ehrlich, the critic, he like referred to this movie as like an eco-ass movie, and I think this movie definitely feels like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus in the sense that like the way that the animation is done, there's a lot of depth to it, but there's like enough roughness that it feels from that era of games. But I don't know, I find this movie so beautiful to look at. I think emotionally it really hit me. I think a movie about the world ending and like the cycle of life continuing despite whatever personal circumstances you're undergoing is really powerful, especially right now with how like climate change is shaping our world currently. And I think just the way this movie is able to conjure this sort of spirituality without any words or dialogue, the connection between these animals and to the world is so felt in the music, the atmosphere, the sound design of this movie. I think the fact this movie is made in Blender as well is absolutely incredible. I think against Zibalotis,
yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Zubalodis,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's incredible. I've seen his debut feature, which I think Flow is like a massive improvement on for me, but he's just a really impressive filmmaker that keeps working in this software, and I feel like if he just continues going from this point with a bigger budget with more animators on his side, I feel like he can make like an absolute just one of the best anime movies ever. For me, I feel like this is a pretty amazing animated movie, probably one of my favorites of the past like 2 decades. I can't really think of anything that really like could make it not that high for me. There's a lot of great animated movies in the past couple of years. I do like Wild Robot, even though I was shitting on it, but Flow for me is just a one-of-a-kind movie. I really adore it.
I mean, I love the success stories that come out of it, like it being basically like really small team, right, that makes the film, and then
an animation studio from Belgium.
Well, it's also like now the biggest like cinema like highest grossing film with the most entries in Latvia, which is really cool that like it picks up steam like locally where it's where it comes from, and then it's really cool. I didn't love it as much as some other animated films of the year, but I really appreciate like the vision and what he's going for. Even though there's a cat that should definitely cater to me, but Connor, you're also a cat guy. We got 2 other bit more of the dog people in this call, but you guys liked it more than I did, right? I think Kevin, for you it's around 100, and for Lachlan it's at spot number 23. So, yeah, guys, have anything to say about Flow?
I completely agree with the points with his Fumito Ueda, I think his name is, Shadow of Colossus, Last Guardian game director, with how this film feels with its environmental storytelling of ruins of a society that we don't really get to see, or something along the lines of maybe with the Legend of Zelda series, especially with the most recent 2 entries, with how they display this abandoned world, and especially with this one, this abandoned human world. There's no elements of a human person hanging about, and I had this film on my watch list for so long, and I honestly wasn't gonna watch it because I heard a lot of great things, and eventually it just came to a point where I was just like, okay, whatever, no worries. And while I say Rebel Ridge is probably the most exciting, like I didn't expect this to blow me away kind of thing, I didn't think it blew me away at first, but then discovering One Man Army essentially making this movie in Blender, open source software, honestly, all the elements similar to Sing Sing made this movie just one of the best ones of the year. Only question I have for you, Connor, is that you said, this may be one of the biggest animated, favorite animated movies of what'd you say, the last decade?
Like 2 decades for me.
All right, so let me ask you this, put you on the spot here. Would you replace that Spider-Verse poster behind you with Flo?
Yeah, I would, 100%.
Yeah, you would?
I got that from a dollar
Damn,
store. I got it from a dollar store.
Okay, no worries.
Back in,
Because you were saying that, and my eyes drifted behind you, and I was like, let me see if you replace that Spider-Verse poster. It's like, I'll wait for Kevin to be like, this is the greatest action movie for the past, 10 2 decades, and I'll be like, we get rid of that John Wick 4 poster behind you.
Nah, I love John Wick too much for that.
And
But
to answer your
Flow, for
question,
me-
no, I will never remove this.
So, damn. But Flow for me, actually, it didn't flow for me very, very well, pun intended. But for me, it was more of an E3 showcase. And that might sound a bit harsh, but that's literally the feeling I got
That's crazy.
from Flow. And even the score, and like even the but
I might say
before
something
you
controversial here.
No. And the reason I'm not saying this to like egg on Connor, because it's literally my review I wrote back in September. So hey, fuck you for insinuating I'm going to revenge.
Okay, damn.
I'm not that kind of person. All right. But and also the things I wrote in said movie, the score is kind of the same. So that's why it kind of adds to that video game mentality I had while watching the movie. It's literally the same type of beat. And I'm like, oh, this feels like the main menu music. And Connor, I'm not saying that to egg on this. I swear, it's literally the feeling I got. And that enforces my, this kind of feels like a video game showcase like feeling I had while watching it. Also, I watched it in a bunch in a theater full of children. And I don't know if they were fully engaged with it, because sometimes, kids would go over to their parents and be like, hey, like, kind of talk to them while the movie was happening. So I don't know how engaging this movie is for children as well.
I don't think it's very popular with children. I saw it in a theater with like some kids and some families. It's a very like attention spanny kind of like it depends on that. I think Wild Robot was definitely more popular with families and kids. I think a part of that is probably just like dialogue, despite like some really young kids maybe not getting fully like what a character is saying or meaning. I feel like the presence of it and the pace of it is probably helpful for a kid to get more enveloped in a story. I think the for me, I think the better way of like introducing this to a kid would probably be at home, just because they're able to kind of like sidetrack and like watch in the background a little bit and like, like admire it. But if it kind of like gives them the option to kind of watch it, because I feel like in a theater, a lot of kids, especially as a movie theater employee, I noticed that a lot of kids just kind of run around. They like, leave the theater sometimes. Like they rarely stay in one place. And so like, despite this movie, I feel like being more so made for like kind of teenagers and like adults, obviously, I would say like the better way of introducing this to kids would be like at in a home environment.
Yeah, like Guillermo del Toro says, it's animation is not just a medium for kids, so you can definitely make like something that is more catering for adults. And speaking of making things for adults, I feel like no one else other than like 50-year-olds, which is so funny, on our review of Horizon American Saga Chapter 2, which is like literally was only screened in Venice, so it's not accessible yet to a lot of people, which, hey, we I guess these guys who picked this. It's really funny to see the demographic that has watched our review, which is 50 plus and no one else. It's really funny. I feel like this was probably at some point the Saga by Kevin Costner, one of your, if not your most anticipated of the year, Kevin. I was doubtful about the first when I saw it in Cannes. I wasn't in love with it. I thought it was long. What's this montage at the end? And then part 2 comes in with a fucking bang, and spoiler alert, it also ends on a montage, which got me ramped up and was like, give this man some money, because he needs to continue.
Film done?
No, they haven't shot it yet. And
oh my god, what's the montage of?
Well, they shot parts of like the parts of the montage at the end of the first one. I don't know how much of those that is actually in there. It's like, funnily enough, it kind of stands on itself as like this like I don't know, this peak, similar to what Lachlan said with ending on the high note with Wicked. It does kind of the same with these, like basically like an ode to westerns. And I really felt like this guy understands westerns, of course, and he's just giving his like most earnest love letter to it. And I couldn't help but like love it. I was really, really happy with what he got to do, and I hope he gets to finish out like the saga that he wants to tell. For me, it's at 28. Obviously, you two haven't seen it yet. But for Kevin, it's at spot number 5. So taking up more than enough space. Kevin, what do you got to say about Chapter 2 of Horizon?
And again, I wasn't that positive on Chapter 1.
Yeah,
Like, I legit have it as a 7 out of 10. Because he tries to put a lot in Chapter 1. Like, kind of put every Western trope, or cliche, as you say, into it. But in Chapter 2, he truly streamlines it. Like, he gets rid of some aspects of the first movie. Presumably, they'll show up in the third and fourth. And all the things he said at the press conference, because we had the honor of watching the press conference before the movie, because we didn't watch the press screening. We went to the actual world premiere screening. So I literally had Luke Wilson walking in front of me right as he was on the screen, which is still very hard to see. Or to experience, at least for the first time. But all the words he said at the press conference about, I want to make a Western to the POV of the actual women there. I want to kind of note the harsh reality that was the Western, instead of, this kind of macho man reputation this genre has built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, etc. And I think it truly makes a masterpiece with this one. I know, I said the word. I said masterpiece, but I truly believe this one is. And like I said in my review, if Chapter 1 was just getting a lay of the land, then Chapter 2 is building a mountain of emotional depth on it. And the reason why, Chapter 2 is on this list, because it hasn't technically released yet, is because I truly hope they give him the money, they give him the time to complete this Western saga he's creating, because it at the same time it kind of feels, because the Western has deemed dead many times over the years, especially in the 80s, because there weren't almost any fucking Westerns in the 80s. But it feels like Kevin Costner is saying, if the Western is dead, I want to make the last chapter of the genre. And right now he's excelling. I mean, he's doing an excellent job in creating that last chapter. And if I want to give the keys, like, the gun with one last bullet in it to shoot the genre dead, it's Kevin Costner.
Yeah. And you look at, if you go look at part 1 and you say this is supposed to be centering about like not the gunslinging hero, but the one who doesn't resort to violence all the time, only if he needs to, or like to put the perspective of women at the forefront. Then if you watch part 1, you're like, where the fuck is that? And that's not in the movie. And then part 2 makes a huge step towards really emphasizing on that, and it's so much better. And the way that he described it, even it being more devastating of what's to come. I think this is going to be one for the ages, and I hope he gets to do it, because like you said, it would be a great closing chapter, or maybe even a reopening if it ends up being like this cult classic down the line.
And
for Westerns.
One thing I want to add, because we both mentioned that in the video, this is one of the most cinematic movies of this year.
Oh, it looks
because
so
there have
stunning.
been some people who have said like, oh, this should be a TV series. You and I are both on it. This is one of the most stunning looking movies of this year.
And
right?
that's because you got the locations of the actual landscape that you can use, and that's why it's also so expensive, because they shoot on location, and really is quite impressive.
That's what I was about to ask, because I did not like how the first chapter looked, like visually, like at all. So I'm glad to hear that. Unless it looks similar, maybe I'm just
It's a bit more of because I think the caravan was the stuff that looked the best, because it was
So
more
good.
on the outside, and I think that's the traversing is like the
Again,
best
like the
part of it.
first 15 minutes, I'm just remembering the first 15 minutes.
No, we went.
So
I
great.
was like, I hate, like, I was going in saying like, Kevin Costner sitting 7 rows behind me. I'm ready to hate this if I don't like it, and then it just kind of won me over. I was like, well, okay, I guess. And it's very earnest. Like, you can look at it through a lens of like, what's this Western doing in like in the 2020s? Why are we still doing Westerns? And that's a fair point. But I feel like if you're open for it, there's a lot to appreciate if you look back at the history of Westerns and what he builds on. But yeah, keep it on your radar.
Look, I'm not a Western guy. I won't lie. I know that that's not me. I do own this, so it does
Oh,
get me
yeah.
quite close.
Oh yeah.
And I will admit,
That's not a knife.
you guys have. I don't actually have a knife on me. You guys have slowly over the past few months, because I wasn't excited for
Worked
chapter
them
2
up.
at all.
Yeah.
I'm fucking keen for this. I really am.
Yeah.
So hopefully I get to have a release date. I've also walked past I think there was a 4K of chapter 1. I don't know if I want to get it or not. But I feel like if I don't buy the 4K of chapter 1, they will never make a 4K of chapter 2. So if chapter 2 is as good as you say it is, I want it in 4K, so I might have to go buy the 4K of chapter 1. That's all I have to say about this
You
movie.
should.
And a bit of a tease to actually hold us to it, because we did a lot of prep for it. Kev and I are working on basically like a multi-part series to cover Westerns, and we got really busy at the end of this year. We really want to get to it, not just in order to, like with the release, hopefully, of Horizon, but just as a whole too, because there's a lot of history there that feels like it's ending, so it feels like you can have a look at a lot and already, like, it's like a written off chapter in a way that's closing. So we'll be working on that, but let's move on.
Release chapter 2 and bring on chapter 3 and 4. That's the last thing we should say.
Exactly. And then the final tie at spot number 15 is Alien Romulus. It ranks highest for me. It's the one from Fede Alvarez. The story is about a group of teenagers or young adults that are going to this space station that they don't know. It's riddled with facehuggers, and there's also a bunch of xenomorphs on it, and they have to battle their way to survive. And I just really, really connected with a fun action sci-fi. I just love that stuff. I love Alien. Alien is definitely in my top 10, probably, favorite movies of all time. I love the atmosphere, and this was just fun. I know for a lot of people they had some criticisms, especially towards the end, and how some characters are treated, that there's like not a lot to them. I was just, this was my movie of the year, where I was like, give me the popcorn, although I don't really eat popcorn in theaters, and it's like, I'll gobble it up. This is my good time. Where like, I love the fan service, I love all of it, I'm here for it. Yeah, I had a great time with it. That's pretty much all I got to say. All I got to say for Alien Romulus.
I'll go next.
Gonna move on.
This movie fucking slaps.
No, I guess
liked
for
it.
Lachlan, it's at spot number 12. It's really high for him. Barely missed his top 10. Maybe Lachlan, you, because for the both of you, for Kevin, it's around the hundreds, and for Connor, it's at 134. But yeah, Lachlan. I mean, we already reviewed it in detail on the podcast.
It brought the horror back. I think it's the first time in a long time that I watched an Alien movie, and I actually felt a little bit nervous. And you know what? That is something I haven't been able to say. Prometheus didn't make me feel that way. Covenant definitely did make me feel that way. And definitely when I watched Cubed and Resurrections, I definitely did not feel that way. Alien vs. Predator, no. Alien vs. Predator 2, Requiem, no. Predator, no. No, Predator, yeah. Predator 2, yeah. The Predator, no. Predators, no.
Still many of them.
Yeah, look, this is definitely the most recent time I think that I felt genuinely scared, and I think that there are problems with it. Yeah, jump scares, too many. I definitely had that moment with this movie, but it kind of peaked, and then I haven't thought about it since. And I will tell you for a fact that I can't get it on my physical media, which really annoys me, because I have a collection of Alien movies, and I can't complete it. And I think this movie is going to look gorgeous on 4K. And yeah. Also, yeah, I'm still not getting over the body horror ending with the creature. I just got a little bit annoyed by that still. Just, I don't think it stuck with me. I think it stuck with me in the moment, and then later on, I was just kind of just like, why?
Yeah.
So
again, I don't think it's a perfect spot for me to have it this high on the list. I was debating this with Kevin. Should I have it outside of my top 10? I was like,
is this your
like,
Wicked?
no, stay. This is my
I
Wicked.
want the little devil on your shoulder.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, no, keep it. It was like a little facehugger creeping up. It's like, no, keep it in there, and I did.
But by the way, Alien Romulus is on 4K here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it hasn't released for me yet, and it's because Disney doesn't do physical media releases in Australia as much anymore.
Australia. It's Sony, right?
You know what?
Long live social, physical media. I was really gonna say social media. Fuck me.
La Chimera is the next one on the list. I think it's with a tie with another film later on. But it's directed by Eliche Rochar, I think. Rocher? I can't pronounce her name.
I'm gonna get it.
Alice Rohrwacher.
Okay.
I believe that.
I can't.
All right, Connor, you're up.
I'm gonna leave that to you. I'm gonna leave that to Kevin. But it's about a crumpled English archaeologist named Arthur who reconnects with his wayward crew of temporarily accomplices, a happy-go-lucky collective of itinerant. Oh my god, these words. Okay. It's basically about a grave robber who comes back home after like the death of his wife and is reconnecting with his family there and the people he knew in Italy, and rediscovering this little hobby he has with his crew of grave robbing and getting all these artifacts from these graves and tombs. And he is doing this in search of a passageway to a like mythic like gateway into the afterlife to reconnect with his dead spouse. And I really like love this movie. I think this movie is maybe Alice's best. I would have to go back into her filmography, but this movie is stylistically incredible. I feel like the way this movie is filmed and edited, and the sound design and just everything about it is so just aesthetically. It's not uniform, but it's like so. I don't know. It's one of a kind, truly. I think the shots where it kind of is showing this character kind of flip upside down as he's like searching for these tombs. It's like these. Oh my god, they're so incredible, and just remembering them just gives me goosebumps. And the feelings this movie gave me are just unmatched by really much I've seen this year. I think the performances all around are pretty incredible. But I think of Isabella Rossellini and Josh O'Connor very vividly. I think they're really incredible in this movie. Josh O'Connor, to me, this is his best performance. I really, really love him here. He's a lot more quiet and like a little more like quirkier in this movie than he is in like Challengers. But I sincerely like just love the kind of genuine, like authentic sorrow, but also kindness and care that he imbues on this character. And I know it was really high on your list last year, Lachlan, but this movie was one I actually got to catch this year. So I know it there's not much overlap, but like I don't know, I love this movie. I think it's incredible.
Dude, I am there with ya. I stalked for ages to get this physically in my hand because this was my number one movie of last year. I agree with everything you spoke about it. The one thing I would probably add is the genuine magic I felt watching this movie. I remember writing the review, and the first thing I wrote was on Letterboxd was I basically was like, this is grown up Italian Goonies. Like it was just like the last time I remember genuinely feeling the excitement of an adventure like this was the Goonies, and this was just maybe it was the time that I watched it, going all the way to Europe for my first time in France, watching it at Cannes. You know, that moment was monumental to me. But this one has stuck with me forever with the fact that Josh O'Connor, an English speaker, learning Italian to play this role is fantastic. And just like the little tiny things like the upside down shot on 16mm, shot on 35mm, the switching between aspect ratios, just everything about this was just magical.
The slowing down and speeding up of like certain shots and montages are just so like playful and incredible, and like just the montages of this movie are so fun. I agree with you. This movie is like honestly, it is magical. It is the magic of cinema right here. Like I doubt that really any movie in the next couple of years is gonna make me feel like this one. Especially with how like it constantly is switching between like being genuinely like so heartbreaking that I've cried so many times during this movie, or just like really funny and like kind of like a farce at points. I think all the characters are really well performed. I think the eclectic cast of characters in this movie is just, I don't know. I love like so many characters in the movie just like off of memory. Like I know like you said, this was number one for your list last year, but like I'm so glad I got to mention it here because more people need to watch it. I think in the States it's available on Hulu, so like it's pretty accessible right now. But yeah,
I mean, it's got a fair amount of logs, over 200,000. So,
yeah,
and it's a 4.1 over on Letterboxd. I don't know if you already said that. But I mean, for Kevin, for you, it's at 25. For me, it's a bit lower. I got to see this in Cannes as well. But I had to go to, like, this was my one screening where I went to like the further away cinemas that have like an IMAX or whatever. But I was sitting at the very outside of just like that. To me was really hindering for me to get into like the magical state, and I have yet to rewatch it. So that's why it's like pretty low for me. And maybe on a rewatch, I'd appreciate it more. But off of your recommendations and how you describe it as like magic, but also then the movie magic kind of paired with it, I think that's a great advertisement for it. So go seek that one out.
There are some people who have called it an indie Indiana Jones, and I kind of like that description.
Rolls off
Which
the
is,
tongue.
it's funny because it also premiered the same as with Dial of Destiny. So I went into Cannes being like, I can't wait to see Indiana Jones, the archaeologist, and I left being like, fuck, this is terrible. But I love Josh O'Connor, the archaeologist. Like, that was the funniest part. Like, I remember reading something along those lines.
Before we move on, can you quickly say the names of the director, Ewan?
I thought it was Alice Warwacher, but I guess it's
Right.
different. Alice, you said, Connor?
No, it's good. It's good. We can move on.
First name doesn't matter. The last name is the part we're trying to challenge you
yeah.
on.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, because it's German.
No.
It is German. Wacher means like.
Well, I would have said Rowacker, but yeah.
Yeah, I know it's Wacher.
That mine's
but I think
completely wrong.
She's Italian, so. Rohr is like a
Roracher.
pipe, and then Wacher is like.
I was debating
It's
this.
like awake. It's like an awake pipe, as if you were to translate. it,
Honestly,
which
I thought
doesn't
it was
make any
Alice, but Alice probably makes more sense because she's Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I actually said Alice, I think.
Well, can we talk about another film that has basically no dialogue? And instead of, I guess, cats, which don't do too well in water, but beavers, if they were in flow, I think they'd do fine as well. But this, to me, we talked about the funniest movie of the year earlier for Kevin. It was Escape from the 21st Century. To me, it's undoubtedly Hundreds of Beavers. Although Broken Rage, although that being maybe a 2025 release for actual, like, for people who didn't see it at a festival. This one has been on the festival circuit for a while. It has a date back to 2022 when it first got like screened, but it got like an actual release in 2024 where more theaters picked it up. And we were so lucky to get like a screener early on and got to review it as well. And I just had an incredible time with this film that does like the best bits of, instead of building tension like in a thriller, you build on the comedic bits that are, yes, very silly. I think you have to be open for it. And our best experience with a crowd, with a group of friends that appreciates it. I think if you don't have a beer in hand and 5 people around you, the laughs are not going to be as loud as they should be, because this is a roar. This is a blast. I rewatched it. First time I watched it by myself, it was like barely in my top 20. Rewatched it, gave it a 5-star, perfect rating. It's my number 4 spot of the year. I absolutely adore Hundreds of Beavers. I think it's such an achievement of what you can do with small indie filmmaking and just having a vision that you want to execute and doing exactly what you want. And just kind of a scrapbook type of filmmaking. It's pretty high for you guys as well. It's in everyone's top 30. Lachlan, for you, it's just barely outside of the top 10 at 11, for Kevin at 18, and for Connor at 23. Who's gotta say something about Beavers, huh?
Well, maybe I just quickly want to repeat my experience of the movie, because, I was at the Cove with friends. The friends said, I suggested the movie. I was in a bit of a pickle because I was like, which movie do I pick? But hey, Hundreds of Beavers, a lot of people say that's funny or very good in a group watch. Let's show them that. And so the first 20 minutes, I was dying laughing at some of the jokes. And I had 5 people were looking at me like this. Like I was an absolute insane person and I belonged into a mental asylum. That's how I got looked at. And
Time to get new
halfway in the
friends.
movie, I'm not even halfway, 45 minutes into the movie, one person said, yeah, I'm gonna go to my room. One person left. Like maybe not even 10 minutes later, the guy said, so can we perhaps do something else? And they continued to play Mario Kart, while I, on the laptop in a corner in the room, continued my watch of Hundreds of Beavers. And I kept laughing like crazy. I really enjoyed it. And when the video game structure comes into the movie, it just soars straight up to into the rankings for me. The last 15-10 minutes, though, the people who are done playing Mario Kart come by and actually watch the movie a bit with me, and they actually start laughing too, enjoying the jokes. And I'm like, you should have been there from the beginning. So it is very much a niche movie in the sense of it's definitely not a commercial movie, but for the people who are out there, need a good laugh and appreciate, some good old silent film gags, some absurd humor and everything, Hundreds of Beavers is there for you to watch.
So good. It's really good. I think the fact that they were able to do so much with this movie in After Effects is like maybe like the biggest technical achievement to me outside of like flow. I think like I don't know. There's certain sequences in this movie that are just like so seared into my brain, especially with how like it is seemingly long. Like it's like almost an hour 50, but like it doesn't feel long at all. I feel like I've seen this movie around like 3 times, and every single watch I feel like it gets faster and faster and faster because of that video game structure. And like introducing this to more people, like I've noticed that the more people I introduce this movie to, the more they introduce this movie to other people. And I feel like this movie is kind of like an infection. I don't know what to call it. Like it's like just spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading. And I feel like this movie is going to be like one of the most popular movies of this year, of the past couple of years, just with due time. And I know you guys love it so much, but I think like this movie is like a lot more popular than I expected it to be. I think it has like what I'm seeing is like 99,000 logs. And for a movie with this small of a crew and budget, and essentially just like a bunch of theater releases for the first bit of 2023 and 2024, it's done so much for how little they had. And yeah,
it really shows
incredible.
the best way of how you distribute a movie like this, because I was in contact with them as well about like a screening at our theater, and the way that they were like doing the international release to get it like in theaters worldwide, as well as some like special select screenings, not with a distributor but directly. And that just kind of shows obviously it was like in the works for like done for a while as well with the screening since 2022, but they've kind of kept it alive and kept going with it, and I think it really has paid off.
This is one mark away from being in my top 10, and if I had rewatched this, I probably would have had it in there, but I already had a movie in there that was obviously in my top 10. That was a great example of what you can do on such a small budget with the independent work, and that was obviously Wicked, so it made its way out of my top 10. So one thing I will say, and I do agree with you, Connor, with how this movie will age. I think this film is probably, because I think about this from time to time about certain movies that people will go back and they'll just watch a screening of, and something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, people just will continuously go back. That's cult classic cinema. The Room, people will go and watch that because of how that's aged. This movie, Hundreds of Beavers, is the latest one. We will have screenings of this in like 10, 20 years time, and it will fill up because of how entertaining and repeatable this is. People still watch Looney Tunes. People still watch those older cartoons because those comedy gags age like fine wine, and this one is going to age very much like fine wine. And I am a little bit disappointed it isn't in my top 10, and I think that, as I said, if I had rewatched it, it probably would have made it in there. Because yeah, I could totally see myself sitting in the corner like Kevin, watching it on a laptop, laughing my ass off, and not caring what other people are thinking of the insane person in the corner laughing his ass off, staring at a laptop, because of how good this movie is.
Can we perhaps just name our favorite bits of Hundreds of Beavers?
Oh, there's too many of them. I love the bit where he like overspins the wheel. Like I loved. Well, I think the thing that we laughed at the most this time around was the whole shenanigans with the wolves and how he gets like in and out of that whole like
The cave.
the cave. It's just that got the most laughs on my
Anything
most
with
recent rewatch.
anything with the girl just like flirting with him, and then the owner or the dad or
It's a
whatever it
fucking
was meant to
spitting
be,
thing.
just like spitting all the time, just that sticks with me in my head.
Yeah.
Or the sequence in the actual Beavers at the end with like the water runs, or they're jumping between them.
God.
It was just so many fun sequences.
So good. Mine's probably the court sequence with like him getting a lawyer and like he's like you're gonna be good, you're gonna be fine, and he walks up and
That was good.
so good.
Yeah.
I think my favorite, it's gotta be the one because I also rewatched it on Twitter, that sequence, is when he follows the footsteps. Because I think that even that on a short film segment works so perfectly.
Yeah.
So so that's my favorite thing.
So let's move on to our number 11 spot, which has a two-way tie with two films. First up, we got a film from Aaron Schimberg, A Different Man, and that ranks highest on Connor's list. It's number 3. For me, it's 29, for Lachlan 26, and Kevin somewhere in his 30s or 40s, which is also his mental age. Connor, take it away.
So A Different Man is about an aspiring actor named Edward who undergoes a radical medical procedure to drastically transform his appearance. But his new dream face quickly turns into a nightmare as he loses out on the role he was born to play and becomes obsessed with reclaiming what was lost. I came around this movie. I watched it maybe like halfway into the year. I think maybe like August, like July, something like that. And like as the movie kind of settled in my brain and I was able to think about it longer and was able to think about like the characters and the performances and just the layers of the screenplay, this movie really grew on me. And then when I rewatched it recently, like a month ago, I was able to really absorb myself in the details of this movie. What it was saying about not only like performative masculinity and what is performance and like there was like a social life, but also what it has to say about like disability and the ways we perceive disability socially, especially in terms of like the way that we treat disabled people, especially disabled performers as well, in film. This movie has a lot to say, and I feel like with Aaron Schimberg's and Adam Pearson's relationship that they've built through their works, they're able to sort of go into their experiences, especially Adam Pearson's experience, I assume, because what he talks about on Twitter and stuff like that, and his involvement in the making of the screenplay, I assume he has a lot of contributions to this film. You're able to really see how like the sort of people-pleasy kind of accepting attitude towards disabled people has also been in its own way kind of ableist. I think that this movie is really important in terms of that conversation. I think Adam Pearson is one of the greatest performers of the year for me. I think he is like one of the best supporting performances to me, and his relationship with Sebastian Stan's character in this movie, who also gives a fantastic performance, is one of the like best parts of this movie. Every scene that they have together where Sebastian Stan is just watching Adam Pearson just live a far better life with the same condition that he had, it just speaks to what this movie is about. And I don't know. I've been thinking of this movie for a long time. It's definitely one that I can see creeping up on a lot of people's lists later on. And I really hope people come back to it. I know it has 112,000 logs, but I genuinely feel like this is one of the best movies of the year. And I think it has a lot to say that is, very important. I think people need to actually listen to it. I think it's up there for me with like the substance in terms of what it's about. Yeah. And I feel like people just need to give it a fair shot in that way.
Definitely. Yeah.
I had no idea this was a comedy in a way.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I honestly thought this was going to be, because I knew The Apprentice was, one of his bigger roles, and I thought, oh yeah, that's going to be the funny one. I laughed way more in this than I actually did in The Apprentice because of how cosmically weird this film was, and this journey that he goes through, this rabbit hole that he goes down, and just the scenarios and situations he gets put into were just this absolutely batshit crazy, like how what the fuck is going on situation. That was just probably the best part to me, just how dauntingly, like, I was not expecting this movie to be what it was. I thought it was just going to be this drama, this like sort of semi-real, but it goes into some really weird scenarios and situations, and I love the weird of this film, and I think that that is a big part of its character, is just how weird it is happy to get, and you wouldn't have the weirdness without the confidence of both Adam Pearson and Sebastian Stan going all in on this, and you could see it in their press tour with how close these two kind of got through this role, and that is some just aura that I'm fucking vibing with this movie. So yeah, this movie was fucking dope.
It's very Charlie Kaufman-esque. Like it really fits into that sort of like genre of like dramedy, but very dark dramedies. How dark this movie is able to get without feeling like it does feel a little pessimistic at certain points, but like to me, like deservingly so. I feel like what this movie is about deserves some sort of like really like dark critiques, and I feel like the making Sebastian Stan, his character, into a joke in and of itself is really funny, but also really darkly funny. It's really tragic. I totally agree, and I feel like with Sebastian Stan's performance and how close he was able to get with Adam Pearson, just their relationship in general, I really hope this movie is able to gain some traction to the Oscars. I wish Adam Pearson was able to get a nomination of some sort. He seems like the biggest stump to me.
Yeah.
But which is in itself, you know, the thing that it's commenting on. I think we're underseen. We still, that's a Sebastian Stan movie. Where I would say, I feel like it's more the Adam Pearson movie here. What we're getting. This is the Adam Pearson show, and Sebastian Stan is perfectly living in it. He's perfect for the role, but I feel like he really is the standout.
It's kind of what the movie's about too, because like it's like this character, it's able to like walk away from like, you know, playing this character without the repercussions of having this condition, which like Sebastian Stan is doing. So it's like him able to sort of do this and play into this like this condition that his character is undergoing, and then walking away from it without the repercussions of it, and then getting nominated for it. Even though I know Adam Pearson like is supporting him, he deserves it. But it's like you said, it's kind of like what the movie's about, and I feel like it's a really relevant movie. It's like, I mean,
I love not to be like super timely, but I think the like Golden Globe speech that he gave was like really hammering that home point, and I hope hammering home that point, and I hope that he gets to go on more stage, because I don't see like Adam Pearson picking up any awards, but if Sebastian Stan gets to put a bit of a spotlight onto this one, it definitely is a hit. I watched this film and I was like, I didn't get it, because it was so, like I said, it's so weird. I was like, this is a film that I definitely have to rewatch. I love it. I just feel like I'll get even more from it the more I sit with it, and then later on give it a bit of time and then rewatch it.
I actually wasn't gonna bring it up, but you did, Connor. So I'm like you in the sense of I prefer a different man over the substance. And I watched both movies at the same film festival, and we watched The Substance twice in a weekend, so that was a bit of a doozy. But everything The Substance does, I just like the way a different man goes a bit deeper into that, because, and again, I like The Substance a lot, but I think the goodwill that The Substance builds for me, it kind of throws it away at the end, and for me, where The Substance throws away a bit of its build goodwill for me, a different man kind of ties it up in a nice tie at the end of A Different Man when they're sitting at that table. Because you also brought up the comparison, and I was kind of curious why you did, because I wasn't going to until we got to there. But
I mean, we'll talk about it. I'll save it for later when we talk about The Substance. Right, but I'll go into it then. But I have more to say about that, definitely.
But then let's move on to the third animated film that makes it onto our list. We had 3 different ones. This is the first one because it's so high up. It pops up on 2 of our lists, namely on mine at spot number 10, just barely making it in there. But for Lachlan, it's at spot number 6, for Kevin in the 50s, and for Connor at spot all the way down at 110. We definitely need to talk about that. I feel like I love that we have seen these 3 different animated films with Memoir of a Snail here from Adam Elliott, with Flo, and with I was about to say again the Iron Giant, but it's a wild robot. And we all take something different away from it. I think for you, Lachlan, you brought up that it's like it captures some of the like Aussie bits that you say, oh, I see what you're doing there. Even though I didn't have that for me as much, I love the dreadfulness of like, I love a sad story. I don't think it's perfect, but to me, this is one of the best animated films of the last couple of years. I think to me, like of the 2020s, this is my favorite. And yeah, I just really like claymation as well if it's done right. And I feel like Adam Elliott is the guy to go to, even more than Artman for me, just because his stories are a bit darker, and obviously he hasn't done like, this is the second feature film after Mary and Max. I just loved it. Again, there's a spoiler review for it already out on the channel on a podcast, but it's another one where I hope more people sit down with it. I feel like this is one like Mary and Max. Even if you watch it in 10 years, because Adam Elliott won't have a new movie out until then, you have more than enough time to catch up on his filmography.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the narrative itself, I think, like, you first of all, you compare it to Aardman, and I agree with, in terms of the claymation this year, you have Wallace and Gromit, and then you have Memoir of a Snail. And one thing I described Wallace and Gromit today was it's a little bit too clean. I prefer the older Wallace and Gromit with the grittiness that it seemed to have, where this most recent one was just a little bit too clean for a claymation film. Memoir of a Snail, you can feel the fingerprints, or you can literally see them in the frames with this film. And it's a bit like the Wild Robot and Flow debate. I would probably not show my kids Memoir of a Snail, but I would show them Wallace and Gromit. And then in a home environment, show them Memoir of a Snail. Just because, here's the synopsis. Forcibly separated from her twin brother when they are orphaned, a melancholic misfit learns to find confidence within herself amid the clutter of misfortunes and everyday life. First of all, orphans, which is, already pretty upsetting. And then 2, separating those orphans to literally the opposite sides of Australia, which is a pretty big continent and a lot of fuck all in the middle. So it takes a lot of effort to get from one side to another. And you said there are elements to this that reminded me of sort of Australian childhood, and to see that in this animated form kind of gets me really excited, because I don't get to see too much of that, especially that sort of childlike wonder that you would have imagining those things when you were a child is kind of how I imagined Luna Park or any of the like, for example, there's an absolutely fantastic visual joke, and no one would probably find this funny except Australians, where there's the Eiffel Tower and then there's the Melbourne Arts Centre, and the Melbourne Arts Centre is the ugliest fucking building in Melbourne, but it's the Melbourne Arts Centre, so it's iconic. And it's compared to one of the most gorgeous, prettiest monuments in all of Europe with the Eiffel Tower, and to me, that is just like classic Australian humour to kind of, degrade your sense of humour with, something else. So for me, the narrative, the animation style, the just the where it was set, everything for me was just like, this is pretty much dead on my favorite animated movie of the year. Adored it.
I admire it. I admire it so much. I really like Adam Elliott. I've seen all of his short films. I really love Mary and Max. I think that like one of the best parts of Mary and Max is this sort of like lovingly like handcrafted element of like the claymation, and definitely felt in Memoir of a Snail. And I agree with you that it's like one of the most like heartfelt like stop motion animated movies that's been made in like forever. And I feel like making something so intimate with this with a style of animation is like really a testament to the passion of these creators and the talent of Adam Elliott. But my issues more so come with like the writing and like the screenplay for me. And I feel like a lot of it is like the pacing of it and how tragic it gets, and how it feels a little, and I don't want to say this word, but it feels like it's like kind of like mining at the trauma and like kind of nothing else. Like to me, like with how traumatic and tragic this movie is, and how sort of like not pessimistic, but like I guess kind of like it seems a little like fatalistic at certain points, maybe mainly because it's coming from this main character's perspective most of the time, and it's telling her story. But I feel like with Mary and Max, it was able to contrast these two different characters and their perspectives in a way that like didn't really feel one note. With me, with this one, it felt like I was constantly being fed like tragedy and like horrific like childhood like trauma and all these kind of horrific feelings and experiences, and not much else. And mainly that might be because like the first half has all of like these sort of enjoyable like memories that this main character has, and going through them in a really nostalgic way. And the second half is like all this tragedy happening to her and her brother. Like, if I don't know if that makes any sense, but it
makes sense. But I think to me, he finds that these spurts of humanity, even if you have a tragic life, and that's like why we talked about this when we prepared for the interview that I got to do with Adam Elliott. That like even though all of it is like bleak and gray, is movies to at least to me still feel like there's warmth in them, even though like amidst all of the trauma. Like it's easier to connect when there's a younger character who has that like maybe that spurt of like being naive with an older character who's just sad. Yeah, I just ate up all of the sadness as well. I just like, yep.
Yeah,
I like that.
and I mean, I'm not trying to
fine.
say that like sadness is not, you know, appropriate for what.
But
they're
if it's your core
experiencing.
theme, if you don't go beyond that, then I totally get why. Maybe it just feels a bit too dreadful. It's best to sometimes just like close your eyes, which is the next movie we're talking about. We are officially in our top 10.
Wow, I'm applauding that segue.
It's for some of us, like Kevin, he has it on his 2023 list, although I think it might have played in European theaters, but it wasn't out until like late into 2024 in the States. So that's why it's still, I also saw it in 2023. I have it at like spot 100. It's one of the films that I couldn't make the most sense out of, but it's at spot number 2 for you, Connor. So it must have really connected with you. So yeah, tell us about it.
So to preface, I haven't seen any of Victor Arice or Riche. I haven't seen any of his movies. I want to see Spirit of the Beehive really badly. Actually, no, I lied. I just lied on camera. I apologize. I've seen El Sur.
Get him on TikTok. He's a liar.
I've seen El Sur. I just now remember it. I've seen that movie. Very, very good movie. And actually, now that I'm mentally connecting these two, it does make a lot of sense that he directed that movie. But this movie is basically about years after the mysterious disappearance of an actor named Julio Arenas, a famous Spanish actor in the movie. He's back in the news thanks to a television program that the director that the movie is about, which is kind of like a substitute for like for Victor Reese. So it's like basically him portraying himself in the movie. And like with this time span that has gone on like between his last movie and then Close Your Eyes, I feel like Victor's able to sort of like conjure up these feelings of regret and like loss that he's felt throughout this like time in between making movies. Like you can tell that he's like wanted to make something like this for so long, but this movie is also a product of that length, of that time in between making movies. And the fact that it feels so like autobiographical is so important to the reading that I have of this movie in terms of it being about how film, and especially older film, as time goes on, is kind of like a resurrection of the spirits and the people on screen. Whether or not those people are accurate to, like those characters are accurate to the people that played those characters and the people that made those movies, like whether or not like their current lives are similar to who they were in the past. These are like resurrections of that past self and of these past selves, or these like even referencing past lives of these past lives that could have been. So it's like it's using film to explore that sort of theme that was in past lives, of exploring possible circumstances and directions that you could have gone in the past, and also like connecting them with like the people that you've had in your life, whether it be like colleagues or like fellow artists or just family members. It's really able to relate the act of making a movie or act of making art to the sort of interpersonal connections you have with like the people around you, and how you can change and develop as a person as time goes on. But ultimately, like you can't change back into that person that you were however many years ago or like however long ago. You're who you are currently. And so all you can do when you are at this point in your life is like sort of look back on these projects, or in this case a film, and kind of like I said, like see this resurrection of your previous self and really connect to that in sort of a spiritual way. And this movie felt really spiritual to me. I think this movie looks beautiful. I think there are shots of it that like are just in my brain just like constantly, especially some of the final shots in the movie. But I think the best part of this movie is the screenplay, where these characters are talking about these memories they have, whether it be of nostalgia or trauma, and they're able to really explore them with the people around them. I feel like with how much I love slice of life movies, this movie is really important to my love for that genre. I just think it's able to sort of reconnect me to that genre in a way that I haven't really at this point, because a lot of the movies that I've loved I've watched in the back half of this year, but like this movie, having seen it very recently, it kind of reminded me of how much I love movies and how much I love talking to people about movies, talking to people about like past memories and nostalgia and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but
No, but it's the type of movie you definitely have to be in the headspace for, and I don't know if I'll ever be in that exact headspace that this movie requires. But if you connect with it on that level, that is like very meta and very like deeply personal to the filmmaker as well, then you find something like strong to connect to.
yeah, I apologize for rambling that long.
No, you're
No.
good,
It's a good movie to ramble on about.
Exactly. That's like this movie also it is long as well, and it does feel like it feels in itself like a ramble. And if you're just like not up for
Yeah.
that, then yeah.
It's
Like,
very
I
much
think
so.
Lachlan would love this
guys,
movie.
it's 169 minutes. It's not a long movie.
He's seen a Martin Scorsese film. That's not even half of it. So
Excuse me, we've seen Leo Party. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, that's almost a mini series. Yeah, Kev, do you have anything else to say about
Connor, I just want to ask: does it end in that movie theater? You suppose-
Yes, but also it shows a lot of shots from the scene that they're watching.
Yeah. Because like that's, I will admit, that is a scene that every time I see this movie pop up on Letterboxd or like any other site, that is a scene that is also quite prominent in my mind. So I will say, I think I do love the vibe of this movie, and then perhaps on a rewatch I would put it higher on my 2023 list or whatever. But it is quite a movie where you have to ponder upon. No, and I think you really struck something with this pick.
And then the next two films that are coming up are both at spot number 8 for us. They have this highest score because they were only on one of our top 10 lists, but both of them peaked. And this,
Shit.
yeah, that's why we got the next two coming up. Lachlan, we'll start with yours. You have
Oh my
Longlegs
god.
as your favorite movie of 2024.
Yep.
Hell yeah, actually.
There is not another fucking movie that has sat with me for as long as Longlegs has, and there is not another moment this year that has stuck with me as of when I went for my second rewatching with Tanika and was like, hey, this is probably like my favorite movie of the year. And then I shit you not, this is her reaction afterwards. So I'm looking at her like this as the movie ends. I'm like waiting for the response, and she goes, that's your favorite movie of the year? And I was like, yeah, do you not like it?
Your heart
So-
shattered in 1,000 pieces.
Yeah, literally shattered into 1,000 pieces. FBI, again, another FBI movie. Who would have
You just
fucking
need
thought I would have
FBI and Lachlan's
God,
in.
if the FBI is in the movie, I'm fucking in. FBI agent Lee Harker is gifted new recruit assignment to the unsolved case of an elusive serial killer, as the case takes complex turns, unearthing evidence of the occult, which also I fucking love the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the merciless killer and must race against time to stop him before he claims the lives of another innocent family. So much to break down in such little time. First thing, I've got this ranked as my number 1, and honestly, up until 4 weeks ago, Dune Part 2 was my number 1. However, I bumped it down because it didn't sit as long in my brain as much as Longlegs has, and a couple other films that will eventually get the Dune Part 2. We can talk about it then. But a lot to talk about. Ewan, you've got this as 44.
Yeah.
Connor, you've got this at 72, so that's pretty high ranking.
Yeah.
Kevin has got 50 to 100, so it's somewhere within that range, between 50 to 100 for him.
Let's take the middle. Let's say 75.
75. I've
Very
got
political.
this at my number 1, and I think the biggest reason is that, as I said, it ticks some things that I love, and that was, 1, I love FBI stuff. Anything that involves the occult just really excites me because it's just like a fun thing to devolve around. Again, we talked about True Detective season 1, and some of the same things popped up in The Order, similar vibes here. But for me, the technical feat that was central cinematography, your eyes can just look at the middle of the screen and you can watch the entire movie. And then if I was to ever look away from the center of the movie, there was doorways, windows, things that I could look through and be like, is there someone watching that? Because I saw a shadow or I saw a demon pop up. And these little tiny things that made me analyze every frame got me super excited. The audio design. And of course, what would it be without the performance of Nicolas Cage as the titular serial killer Longlegs, which, I don't know. I know that some people like it, some people don't like it. I was totally on board with it the entire time. This film was just such a fun vibe for me. I don't know, it stuck with me. I loved it. It got me excited to see anything else Osgood Perkins is going to come out with, which I know he's got The Monkey this year, which I'm immediately going to go see day one. And it's funny because I'm not a horror guy. I don't seek horror. I do not seek this genre at all. And it's funny that in my top 10, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 films that would be considered horror, right? And that's wild that I'm not someone who's always been like seeking out horror, but this year has just been absolutely bangers for that stuff. So now, gentlemen, go easy on me. I know this isn't as highly rated for some of you at like the sort of 50 to 100 mark. But please let me know.
We'll keep it brief.
Yeah.
Again, we reviewed this on detail on the podcast, so I don't feel like I need to elaborate much on it. I love the atmosphere. I don't love some of the pandering explanations towards the end, but I'm all in for the atmosphere it sets and the horrors it creates. I liked it a lot as well. Would go so far to maybe even say I loved it, because there's a ton of films that I loved this year, and this is one of them.
I feel like it's like one of the only horror movies. That's a beautiful 4K. But I feel like it's one of the only horror movies to come out recently that actually like is able to be like a Kiyoshi Kurosawa movie, like Chime or like Pulse, or like Cure. I think it's literally like it's inspired by Cure. It feels very, 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 very inspired by Cure. And the way that like the evil in this movie is so amorphous and inevitable that whenever it comes into frame, or like there's like, you know, symbols of Satan in the background, or there's like actual like appearances of the devil in the movie, it's able to sort of, you know, conjure up these occult images without making any of these like demons or whatever actually feel like sorry, someone. You're good.
What do you think of Longlegs?
The sound that the door made was perfect.
Dude, I was freaking out. Yeah. I literally was like, did my door just
I was
open?
like, who
Fuck,
was that?
Not right now.
What did Kevin add to the soundboard?
Like, I got kind of jump scared a little bit.
I think we all did.
No, it's able to like, you know, give these occult images and this sort of nightmare a form while also keeping it amorphous, like I said. And I feel that's kind of like an impossible feat for a lot of horror movies, but it's able to do that and also have this crazy Nicolas Cage performance that is so insane and incredible. And to me, I like it. I really like it. I know a lot of people don't like it. I think it's pretty incredible.
Love it.
But yeah, what'd you think of it, Kevin? I know you have it like a similar range to me. I had a like, to me, like 70s are pretty decent for me. So I don't know.
Well, I like Longlegs, and I have a friend with a horror head. So again, shout out to Luca. I'll get he will really appreciate this one. But Longlegs was his favorite movie of the year as well, and he like listened to the podcast with Osgood Perkins. He was obsessed with it, and he actually walked out of our first screening, also kind of mild like me, but upon actual like showing. What's this movie actually about? I'm actually kind of loving it. It ended up on its number 1. But for me, it was a bit of a collage of a lot of movies that kind of like, for example, you know, there's a nun. Out of nowhere, there's a nun in Longlegs. It's in a montage, Easter egg, but there's a nun. And out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, hey, there's the nun. And I had that feeling with multiple things. And so for me, Longlegs is a collage of different horror movies and thrillers that use their elements to stand out above the rest of the horror movies that release, which is, there are a lot of shit horror movies. We've seen a lot of them. Imaginary, Night Swim, all those movies could die in a ditch. But Longlegs does stand out above the rest despite using different elements of other horror movies. But for me, it just didn't do that much in the end. And again, Micah Monroe, I know she's doing her thing, because I don't think Micah Monroe I don't think she has a lot of range. But what she does in her range, she nails. But again, for me, I wasn't as invested in her as, for example, Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. Right? That's the easy comparison you can make. And Nicolas Cage makes the whole thing brilliant. But I just didn't do it much for me in the end. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, Lachlan.
Daddy, Mummy, unmake me and save me from the hell of living. Oh, that's going to be stuck in my head for years, the way, Daddy! Oh, God, man. And it's the most tame Nicolas Cage performance of the year. So that's not something you get to say every year.
What other one?
I don't know what else what he was in, but by sheer amount of it definitely was the tamest, but also the wildest. Let's move on to my number one pick. It's rare that a documentary creeps into my top 10, let alone that it tops my best of list. This is the first time that has happened, because when I watched Box Diaries, I just kind of had that thing. I did have the interview with Shiori Ito lined up already when I first saw it. So take it with a grain of salt and the bias that I feel like you often have to really engage with a subject matter in a way when you do it differently when you prepare to talk to someone who, in this case, is specifically the story about, which, if you don't know, it's about the journalist Shiori Ito that embarks on a courageous investigation of her own sexual assault in an improbable attempt to prosecute her high-profile offender. Her quest becomes a landmark case in Japan, exposing the country's outdated judicial and societal systems. And I think it does that in such a personal and in a raw way, while still making a beautiful movie in the process as well. One that evokes a lot of thought, evokes leaps for change, but also embraces other victims. And it's rare that I've seen something so beautiful that is also devastating, and it being something that is not crafted by a narrative, but by someone's own experience that they've just kind of captured. And to me, this is just like the filmmaking achievement of the year. I really, really adored it. And I think the conversation that I had with Shiori, I'm really happy with how it turned out as well, because I think we kind of met on that level where it's really hard for someone to re-engage with it, something so constantly. And I think we got to talk about that as well. Just really close to my heart. I think this is also a subject that, like, oftentimes when we now have something that feels more immediate, when we do have a movie like No Other Land on the doorstep that is about the plight of Palestinians, that is obviously just as important to talk about, then it often then it overshadows another great film this year, like something like this, which I wouldn't be mad if any other movie that is just as great, like Daughters or like No Other Land, takes home like the best documentary feature. I just think that it would be such a great spotlight for this film to be seen by more, because it teaches you about empathy, about the struggle, about like the curse it has on you by so many victims that go through sexual assault. And for that, I think it's just such an important story. While it does tackle something that I think everyone should educate and empathize more with victims, it also crafts a really great narrative, like in as much as you craft a narrative in a documentary, as much as that makes sense. Yeah, that's my favorite movie of the year. Very much underwatched, only 5.3k logs on Letterboxd. What the fuck is going on? More people need to see this movie.
But it only recently hit VOD, so you can watch it.
Yeah. It's out so on some streaming service, even I think on Showtime or something like that.
Well, I'm the only one here who hasn't seen it, so sorry.
Yeah.
How dare you not watch Ewan's favorite movie of the year, Lachlan? How dare you?
Again, you're not
a
documentary guy,
I could probably go watch it now, and you guys do the next one, and by the time I get back,
It's been a
it'll be
long
really the one
recording,
after that.
as always when we talk about. But I never regret any of that because I hope you get a lot of when we get to break down
yappers.
why exactly. But also it kind of, to me, we always say this when we do festivals, and once we get further into recordings, we need to reflect on what the fuck are we doing? Why are we taking 3 hours to record? But it's also that it keeps the spirit of the actual dialogue, like it capsules it, we put it online, and it's there. And to me, that is also kind of a sort of preservation of film discussion. And I think it's really important, not to self-congratulate, but just the thing here I really appreciate. So,
and I really want to emphasize how much this is Ewan's favorite movie of the year, because not often will I get from Ewan, you need to watch it right now. You need to watch it right now. It is so fucking good. It made me tear up. Like, this is the type of reaction I got from Ewan. So
yeah,
if somebody out there is aiming to get some type of the same reaction, I guess watch Box Diaries, because I've never seen Ewan like that.
yeah, it's probably the most excited I was about a film in a long time. I just didn't know that documentaries can do that. So no one wants to follow that up. I guess you guys liked it as well. It's like I think in your 30s for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved it. I caught it back in like Sundance.
Yeah,
so it was like a long time ago. But I think the fact that like Shiori Ito was able to like make this movie herself too is like absolutely incredible, and it's really a testament to her bravery and her strength, and like throughout like everything that happened to her, she was able to make this film, and it feels like very like probably one of the most important movies of the year. Honestly, to me, it would probably be only because like just the way that Shiori Ito is able to tell her own story without like allowing like a documentary format to kind of like streamline her trauma or her what she went through is really incredible. And I think a lot of the moments of this movie that I remember so vividly are the more diary moments where she's kind of just talking to her friends or talking to the camera about everything that's transpired in the past couple of months before she last filmed. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think this movie's incredible. It's in like the 30s for me, but it's still a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's incredible.
One of my favorite scenes of Black Box Diaries, and I told you that, is when she gives out, I believe, one of her first press conferences, and other people start, kind of relating to her, interacting with her. Wow. I love how Ewan knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking
about. And
about.
then she admits, oh, well, this is kind of the first time I feel like someone is handing me a blanket. I will say that is a scene that I felt very emotional at. Now Ewan has wrapped a blanket around him because we're going to talk about something very cold.
The Substance is spot number 7. It is in 2 of our top 10 lists, namely in mine and Lachlan's. For me, it's at spot number 7, and for Lachlan, number 5. For Kevin, again, it's like, I guess it's at 75 because it's like in the 50 to 100.
Wait, what other movie was it? 75? Longlegs?
Yeah. Is it higher or lower than Longlegs? That's all we're going.
I'll say Substance is 74.
Well, good to know. And Connor has it at 43, which also means around that range. It's
34.
34. Sorry,
He's
I always mix up numbers.
Guys, everyone, Ewan has to get to bed, so let's not.
I got sleepy time, so my better half, who's thinner than me, can come out and host this podcast. But no. Caroline Farshaw had our hearts racing. Obviously, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Lachlan, because it's your highest pick.
I also can't pronounce her name, so thank you for doing her name.
Yeah, no,
I can do the synopsis.
Yeah, do that.
A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. Cool.
Very nice.
I vibe with that.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that.
You would?
Personally, I would. Yeah, I'd probably do what happens. I'd probably. Yeah. You know what? Let's not go there. Dude. So I saw this at like basically a midnight screening, and it was me and some random dude right at the we both weren't right at the front. I was in the right spot for a cinema screening, and that's right in the middle. And then there's a guy right down the front third row from the front. Now, we actually have a cinema professional here, someone that can probably help me understand. What do we think the guy in the third front row was doing? Because he definitely thought he was by himself in that cinema watching The Substance.
Yeah. So that's completely, fuck the patriarchy, I guess, is exactly what this movie is. But
so me and that random guy that was jerking off to Dennis Quaid,
I guess, with whatever they get. Yeah, even if they're eating, is he eating lobsters in that? Or crab?
Prawns,
shrimp,
prawns, seafood.
Disgusting.
So yeah,
seafood.
Now, I don't want to talk about this really quickly because the conversation that Kevin and Connor were having around The Substance versus A Different Man is something that I also had some interesting talking points about. Now, who would like to continue that conversation? Because I'm really engaged with The Substance versus A Different Man.
You have it, man.
Yeah, so my thing with Substance and Different Man, I wouldn't compare them in the sense that, like, I think one is better at the same conversation than the other. I just think that, like, A Different Man and The Substance are able to tackle very similar subject matter in ways that, like, one is, like, more associated with, like, the sort of celebrity and, like, that industry and that kind of, like, persona, and the other is, like, addressing it in a far more, like, social, like, modern and like mundane kind of situation or setting. And I think that Substance abstracts it to the point that I kind of come out of it with very broad perspectives on what it's talking about. Obviously, I think the movie using the similar cinematic language of, like, misogynistic films of the past and using that to sort of weaponize them against the same kind of, like, misogynist that would sexualize Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley's characters, and it's able to be in conversation with this audience and kind of, like, attack them and, like, show how horrible their treatment of women is, and show, like, how the cinematic language has been so problematic for years and years and years and still continues to be, while, like, also being its own self-contained, like, horror story of the limits of like physical, like, appearance, and also, like, that in relation to, like, body dysmorphia and, like, how you perceive yourself in relation to, like, other people. It's a very physically driven, and I feel like Different Man isn't as, like, physically driven, maybe in the sense that it doesn't have as much, like, body horror, or, like, it's not really like a horror movie in the same sense. Doesn't show as much in terms of the transformation. But Substance is able to really get at this, like, really gnarly feeling of, like, wanting to get out of your body and hating yourself so much that you want to be a different person, and it feeling so visceral and like physical, whereas, like, Different Man is a lot more, like, sociologically and, like, mentally, it's a lot more adept in those kind of conversations than what The Substance is doing. And that's mainly, like, my thing. They're very different movies, but I feel like A Different Man is a lot more particular and, like, broader than The Substance to me, like, both.
And I agree. And again, like I've said, it's kind of the last parts of The Substance where it's kind of goes down for me, where A Different Man is, like, slowly builds up over time. I can relate way more. I can get more into the mind of Sebastian Stan's character crying in bed while his face is falling off than Elisa Monster Sue or whatever the final character name is. Just throwing blood all over the audience and kids. So I kind of like the subtlety more in A Different Man than the all-out, over the top, big bang finish A Different Man is. But you can't deny the cultural impact The Substance has had in 2024. Today I've seen a Dua Lipa and Cher edit saying Cher took The Substance and we got Dua Lipa, and then you got, like, an edit of them.
In itself, I think is, like, so like the antithesis of what this movie is, like, at the core about that. Like, look at this, and I don't know, that feels like super toxic to me. I really haven't liked the sort of memification of this film, because it, like,
yeah, I get it, but you can't deny the cultural impact this movie has had in 2024. Yeah.
Well, this is her biggest success. I mean, 1.8 million logs versus
For a horror
Revenge,
film?
which was the most recent one, which was at 149,000. So
Which is
this
also
is
great.
a much
And I prefer
bigger
Revenge. I'll
success.
put it out there. I prefer Revenge. Revenge.
Revenge does stay a bit more, I think, grounded in what it's doing, even though it does bring up.
But I
Similar
think
issues.
Revenge, the way that it employs like misogyny and it's like sort of like weaponized like imagery of like the past. I feel like it's very different than The Substance. And what I was mentioning earlier, and I didn't want to say
it's a
it like The
physical
Substance
assault,
is like
you know.
yeah. And I also don't want to say The Substance is all about misogyny. Like, it's definitely not. Like,
No.
a lot of The Substance is about like this internal hatred of yourself. Like, not maybe it might be enforced by other people and like your social setting, and then like
and the
whether it be,
competition
online, yeah, that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is just this deep internal feeling of just not wanting to be yourself and not wanting to be within your own head. And one of my like favorite parts about this movie, and one that's like very different than A Different Man, is that this movie gets so like crazy and insane in that last like 30 minutes or whatever. I know Kevin was mentioning that was like where it kind of lost him. For me, I feel like that's like some of the most interesting parts of the movie, only because it like really dives into this like meta narrative element of like the audience, and like you were saying, Ewan, like how this. Sorry, I put my hand in front of the camera. Like you were saying, Ewan, like with like this movie, like having this audience that is kind of making this content that is sort of the antithesis of what this movie is about. The final acts, this movie feels like it's in conversation with what was to become, like what was to come, like the conversation around it, all these edits and stuff like that about certain celebrities taking the substance and how like they would be these more like perfect, beautiful people. It's showing that like this want or need to like have people around you or have celebrities or have yourself become more perfect, more beautiful or whatever is ultimately like for nothing. Like it's going to drive either yourself or the people around you or culture insane to the point of becoming this like grotesque, horrific like bloodfest where like it's so nightmarish and insane and crazy that all you can really do is just kind of like sit back and like either laugh or just be in horror of what was going on. Like it's pretty insane what Coralie was able to do with not only the budget but also like with a movie that is this insane, like to get this level of audience. Like I think that's incredible.
It's really the way that you described it just now with like the end, like the monster in itself being the sort of discourse that is happening daily in culture, to me makes me want to put this movie even higher, because I just feel like I'm along for the ride. Obviously I love the themes that it's going for, but I just also love the body horror that is just done, in my opinion, even until the end, to perfection. I adore that shit. It is great. I love good horror. And this is just like, to me, at the peak. Like I was on the edge of my seat for the entire movie, and I just had such a blast with it.
The points that you guys have made has really reinforced that there's a big difference between A Different Man and The Substance. But I think what they went to do is they tackled their narrative differently. The Substance, by the end, was just trying to go into this bizarre, the shocking, to get their message home. Whilst A Different Man was definitely a lot more character-driven. So that shock value of the face melting off, that was a moment, but it was really reinforced by how they bring it back home with Sebastian Stan's character. And I think that's why it probably ends up being higher for most people when you're kind of comparing the two, as characters are probably more important than big old scary monster creatures. But The Substance did one thing, and I'll say this because the last time this happened in cinema was when Ewan and I were watching a movie that Connor mentioned, and that was About Dry Grasses, where when the point of The Substance gets absolutely crazy, this was me in my seat, and then this was me in my seat leaning forward going, what the fuck am I watching? And the last time that happened was midway through About Dry Grasses, where all of a sudden this film that is a completely narrative-driven film does a crazy thing. I'm not spoiling it. Does a crazy thing, and all of a sudden you're just your mind's going so like dialogue. What the fuck am I? And the substance does the same thing. You're going, yeah, what the fuck is going on here? And I think that's why, for me, yes, I love the character thing with A Different Man and how they bring that narrative home, but I just love going, what? And I remember just like, if it was me at home and the screen went black, I would have seen my reflection in the screen and I would have been like, what the fuck did I'd just be staring at myself, like a Black Mirror-esque thing. So I think that's why the substance was just so high for me with where it landed in my top 5.
And I think it ultimately comes down to just what cinema is, subjective and personal taste, because my reaction to the whole ending, I was actually, funnily enough, as Connor mentioned, I was nervously laughing at the movie, because I was like, wow.
But there was a lot of nervous laughter even at the premiere in Gun, definitely. Like, people were like,
they didn't know how to react because of the subject matters, serious subject matter, and then you're just going, oh, what the fuck is it? What the fuck? Weren't we just talking about misogyny and body image, and now we're seeing the Blob but with arms?
So it's actually a bit much.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of people have already had the substance on their radar, and let's move on to our number 6 pick that also is on 2 lists, and notably it tops Connor's list. It's also number 7 on Lachlan. Kevin, shame, hasn't seen this one yet.
Look, for me, every year there are movies that I've just missed the bandwagon on. I've missed Star. I've missed Saltburn last year. Just movies. But just like movies that are on my radar, but I just haven't gotten to it for some other reason. But from what I've seen I saw the TV glow while editing the montage, I am very intrigued. But it also seems like a movie you have to be in the right headspace for, and I haven't gotten that yet. And I know what to get into because I've sort of seen it with the montage, so I'm like keeping it for in the safe, like in a case of emergency. It's like in a glass cage, and when I'm in the right mood, I will break that glass and watch it. I promise.
I definitely have to tie it back to my ranking for this, because it's really, really low in, I think, the capabilities of this film, where I feel like I haven't given it a rewatch. It's like at 143 for me, which seems cruelly low.
Especially because you have seen 450 films. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've seen 300 more after this that are like, it's better than 300 other films in my opinion. But I think I'd appreciate it more on the rewatch. I think this is one that will definitely grow on me. I just didn't really see that same thing that everyone else was really connecting to. So I'm like eager to hear from Connor and from Lachlan. Well, I guess from Lachlan I already know, but from Connor as well. Like, why does it top your list? Why is this one something that you really, really connected to?
I'll just go into the synopsis. So it's about this kid named Ewan who's like just trying to make it through life in the suburbs when his classmate Maddie introduces him to a mysterious late night TV show, a vision of a supernatural world beneath their own. In the pale glow of television, though, Owen's view of reality begins to crack. I feel like that last line of this like log line is really integral to like my experiences of this movie, because like when you look at this movie, when you look at the reception of this movie, it's very tied to Jane's and a lot of other people's like trans experiences, which is very, very important. I feel like it's pretty inseparable from this movie. I feel like people that are trying to turn it into like an allegory, which I like understand, like with like the viewing and like the treatment of a lot of A24 movies. They like to treat these horror movies like, puzzles to crack, or like, movies to find like the metaphor for. But like for me, this movie, even though like it resonates with so many different kinds of experiences, Owen in this movie to me is trans. And I feel like there's a lot of narrative elements I could point to, and a lot of like actual pieces in the script that point to him or them being trans. To me, it feels very like concise in that sort of like not reveal, but that sort of revelation for this character. Like it feels very in line with the script. So to call it an allegory to me feels like a misdirect, because the way that Jane is able to go through Owen's experience and his gender dysphoria, as well as like his experiences with the show and like his obsession with all these kinds of media and showing him diving further and further into this show and the lore of it rather than his own life. It really showcases this experience of like not being comfortable within your body, within your skin, within like your social perception that people have for you, and just trying to escape any kind of expectations of yourself or that other people place onto you in any kind of way. And it really connected with me personally as a person that like has like struggled with a lot of identity issues and like sexuality issues and like not really knowing like where I'm going or who I'm going to be. And like obviously I'm a young adult, so like everyone kind of has like similar experiences, but like this movie is able to make these experiences feel very relatable, very like aesthetically felt. Because to me, the way this movie is shot and made, and like the sound design and the score and the soundtrack and everything feels very in service of making a film that feels not only like relatable but also like very I don't know. This movie is like one of the most emotional movies I've seen in a long time. I'm having a hard time like really like describing it or like selling it to people that aren't already sold on it. But to me, it is so immediately felt. I was crying in the first like 2 minutes of this movie with the Anthems of a Teenage Girl cover by Yule. I don't know. This movie, out of everything I've seen this year, it feels the most spiritual in a way that I feel it on such an intense personal level that I have a hard time like really describing it to people. And I'm having a hard time right now. But like, I don't know. I think this movie is just, I'm kind of choking up just like thinking about it right now, but yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you can't really it's hard to put into words. You just kind of feel it. So I think that's kind of what the experience is with this one, because like for some there's some kind of mystery to this film as well, but it always feels like it's keeping you at arm's length. Like it feels like it's grabbing you in close, but there's so much going on. I really, really want to revisit it.
Can I ask, Connor, when we were getting into this many hours ago, you described that there was a film. Sorry, you described a film as Lynchian, and I was gonna go on a limb and ask if it was I Saw the TV Glow.
It was,
because when I watched it, I had so many just pondering memories of watching Twin Peaks for the first time, or watching any of I got a lot of Twin Peaks vibes, mainly just because it was a TV show and they talked about a TV show, and a lot of the weird, wacky, the horror elements or the Lynchian vibes that I got from this. And as soon as you said that, I was like, please be I See the TV Glow, because I completely agree with that statement, dude.
Yeah, and it feels very similar to Twin Peaks, especially Twin Peaks: The Return.
Oh yeah,
because it feels very in conversation with itself. Not only in conversation with the media in the fiction, but like the movie itself. Like it feels very much so not only about like, I feel like a lot of people have like talked about like, oh yeah, it's about like the traps of nostalgia and how someone can be so obsessed with nostalgic media and old media that it can like absorb them within this like alternate life they could have lived without like actually experiencing a life that they're living right now. But I think that this movie isn't really condemning nostalgia. I think it's showing like media and like nostalgic media as a way for people to escape the world that's not letting them be themselves. It's not the nostalgia that's trapping them, it's the world around them that's like choking them until like they can't do anything anymore until they just like die. It's absolutely, for me, it just makes me so emotional just thinking about it, because like it's about like obviously it's about these characters that are trying to figure themselves out in a world that's not really helping them, but also like the ways in which they see themselves in this media, and they talk about this media with each other. They experience this media together, and they have these like nights where they're watching episodes together. I feel like are some of the most important scenes in the movie. Like it's not so depressing that every single moment is like making you cry or like beating you over the head with some kind of message or anything like that. It really is trying to get you in the heads of these characters and people that have been through similar experiences, and showing you that like there isn't just trauma in these communities and in these experiences. It's also just like joy and like catharsis, and finding people that feel the same way that you do. I mean, even like the scene where like or Owen's talking about like wanting to like go through his guts and like find like why he feels wrong, why he feels so weird. Like that feeling, even though it feels so depressing seeing him say it, him saying it to someone else is like what's emotional about it. Him able to say it out loud to someone that feels similarly is really important to I think like what this movie is about with these two characters.
Yeah, and to a large extent, that's exactly what. No, don't apologize. Definitely not. It feels like so personal in a way that the film itself is really like spilling your guts out and really sharing it, and it's really nice to have something in the midst of like other films that are supposedly in allyship to trans identity, but completely fucking missing the point. And then this one really being something that you can connect yourself a bit more closer to. It's really nice to have that, like there's someone here who's a great filmmaker who can craft stories like this that people so deeply can connect to. And I think you're definitely not alone with that. Seeing that it's more than 500,000 people who have logged this on Letterboxd, it's definitely like a popular place for it. We are definitely, even though it's really quite low on my list, I think I also champion the film because it exactly stands for the points that you just made.
Very, very importantly, just because it has been throughout the entirety that I've seen this film, one of the best soundtracks of like pop songs film. I have had Sunburnt and Unkissed on replay all the time, and I don't know why you haven't like caught on to this, because I feel like this like poppy like soundtrack would just be totally up your alley with some of these songs.
Yeah, no, I like that. I don't know why I have it so low on my rating, to be honest.
I remember listening to it for the first time and just being like, yeah, I'm really vibing with. I can't wait to see what Connor is going to bring back, because it's either going to be like a vinyl.
I'm just seeing a man on a mission.
I think he has the vinyl.
The vinyl? Yeah, I hope so. Because it's either this or challenges with like challenges like like the really pumpy, like upbeat stuff, or this, which is in the complete opposite nature of what the score. Yeah, there it is. Very good.
By the way, Lachlan, I'm just gonna say, I thought you were humming Dude Sandstorm there. It was.
I could have been. We would never know. Look at that. How good is that soundtrack? It's absolutely phenomenal.
So good.
Like Anthems of a 17, Teenage 17, whatever it was. That one's good. Claw Machine, which has like Phoebe Bridgers on it, is just, God. And just, man. But yeah, Sunburnt and Unkissed, I literally just, there's a police station that I drive past to like get to work sometimes. And there has definitely been instances where the police have heard me like driving past, crank that song, just being like sunburn and just yelling at the top of my lungs, just such a fucking anthem. But yeah, I just had to point that out. No. Yeah. I don't think I should be shouting at 1:25 in the morning.
It's so late, so we gotta get a move on. Definitely, and before
no, let's take our time.
I feel like there's a catalyst that there's repercussions about butterfly effect. If the wrong things happen, then we are unleashing the Mad Max universe onto Australia, which is the next movie that's coming up for place number 4, Ty. It again pops up on 2 of our lists. It's in all of our top 20s, top 15 even. I have this as the lowest at spot number 15. Lachlan at 13. Connor at 7, but at the very top we got Kevin has the action guy, has Furiosa and Mad Max Saga, a George Miller film, at spot number 2. So tell us all about it.
As the world falls, young Furiosa is snatched from the green plate of many mothers into the hands of a great biker horde led by the warlord Dementors. Sweeping through the wasteland, they encounter the Citadel, presided over by Immortan Joe. The two tyrants wage war for dominance, and Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home. So rude of y'all to leave me while I'm reading synopsis.
No one, the audience wouldn't know. Now I gotta give them
I was
the
getting
context
something
again.
for you.
Again. Fuck you,
right.
Kevin, for pointing out something that I can't cut out. But unfortunately, we can't cut out that this movie didn't do well at the box office, and we don't understand why, because this was amazing. Such a blast.
This was amazing. Now, probably the reason why this at your number 2. You know, I'm the action guy of this channel, or deemed so. And for me, that is the reason why it's at number 2. I personally prefer it over Fury Road. Crazy statement, I am aware.
That is crazy.
But it's because I'm absolutely loving the way George Miller reinvents himself for Furiosa. Fury Road, if I recall correctly, because I have written an essay or like a uni thing about it, I remember Fury Road has an average shot length of, I believe, 1.4 seconds. Fury Road is the pinnacle of chaos cinema, as they called it, when we were in this, period where action was super sharpy, was popularized by Bourne movies, and now we got Furiosa, where George Miller does a complete 180, and instead of going full chaos mode, he really reigns in control of his action. I've put it in the montage. It's one of my favorite shots of the year in action cinema. But when the guy who is gliding over the floor behind his car puts up a parachute and goes into the air, I was on my feet. I was cheering. And that feeling, I haven't gotten that feeling from any other action movie in 2024. And obviously we have to talk about, Anya Taylor-Joy. I mean, she's delivering a Charlize Theron level performance. She's great. But the MVP, of course, is Chris Hemsworth as Warlord Dementus, being absolutely demented, deranged. I can say so many things about his performance, but this is the stuff Chris Hemsworth needs to be doing. And obviously, it's a great prequel, because that's what this movie is, a prequel into Fury Road. And I have yet to do the double feature, but it must be such a change-up going from Furiosa, where the action is way longer, is way more choreographed, I feel, than Fury Road. So yeah, this is why Furiosa is my number 2, because I'm just absolutely in love with the action and obviously the story as well. How about you, Connor? It's at number 7?
Yeah,
Tell me about it.
I've been in love with it. I've seen this movie, I think, like 5 or 6 times. I would have to go back into my letterbox. I saw all of that in theaters too. And so like I think this is like you said, like one of the best action movies that have come out this year. I think I have it higher than Rebel Ridge. I would have to go back in maybe I don't. I think I do. I think I do.
Yeah, you do. I think.
So it to me is my favorite like action film of the year. I think the ways in which that George Miller is able to reinvent himself, like you said, especially with CGI. Like I know people didn't like 3,000 Years of Longing, but I personally was a big fan of that movie, and to see him use it's I think it's great, but to see him use elements that he utilized in that movie with the CGI and the way he blended it in with like real elements feels like very Robert Rodriguez-esque. But in this, it feels a lot more grounded than that. I just love how he's able to blend all these different elements and make them feel so like tangible and real, but also like, there is like comic book goofiness. I mean, this is like based on the comic book, so it makes sense that like, it would come out with that kind of style and aesthetic. But yeah, no, I don't know if there's anything much else I can say past like what you said already. I think Chris Hemsworth is incredible. He's like insane. Oh my god.
I mean, you say comic book goofiness. He literally zooms in on Australia, as if to say like, hey, where this movie takes place, in case you haven't yet from the previous 4 movies, let's zoom in on Australia. What does the Aussie guy think about this?
I hope you guys are okay with this, but I'm going to say something a little bit controversial.
Wait. Are you going to piss me off?
No. Because I have this quite highly rated as well in my 13th spot. But I feel like I would have rated it higher if I had the opportunity to rewatch it, because I really like Fury Road and I think Fury Road is better. But I think Fury Road is better in black and chrome. And I'm yet to watch Furiosa in the black and chrome edition that I currently have here. I feel like I could also say that it is better than Fury Road once I've seen it in this, because I honestly felt that Fury Road was in my eyes just a little bit better in black and white. I don't know why. I just really liked it. A bit like when I watched Parasite in black and white. I was like, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on a little bit of a controversial binge and just say, no, you know what? Fury Road, fuck your CGI. Sorry, Furiosa, fuck you. Man, it's getting late. Furiosa, fuck your CGI. But maybe I won't notice it as much when it's in black and white. That's what I'm currently thinking. I actually might notice it like less when it's in black and chrome. So yeah, I agree. I think it was one of the best action movies of the year, and I was like super duper excited watching it the entire time. When you said George Miller likes to reinvent himself, I was also thinking, yes, this man did
Babe.
Mad Max, Babe, Happy Feet. This man knows how to reinvent himself for his demographic. And don't get me wrong, all of those are very much critical successes. And I have no idea why this thing flopped for how good this was. Maybe it was...
And for how popular it is on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
As well. So
Now-
that should have translated more into like box office dollars.
But we are talking about a different time, you know? Fury Road was a 2015, 2014 was some
We'll
fantastic
be
years of
longing for
movies.
3,000 years for it to have a better
So,
run
yeah.
box office. I'm sorry, I'm running out of steam as well.
Now we have to keep the energy going.
Ah! Witness me!
You have literally Red Bull behind you. Go grab one.
I already had two today. I don't think I want to go past two. I also haven't eaten. I have had a smoothie this morning, and it's currently 6:30 in the evening, so it's crazy. That
Second
we've been going
Red
so
Bull.
long. Let's move on to the second four-way, not four-way tie, but fourth place tie, which is coming from one of my favorite filmmakers. Is still alive, still making movies. I'm looking forward to his new film that's coming out this year, and it's a movie that Kevin and I caught last year in Venice. Hitman saw it with a roaring audience. I think that's how it's best experienced. But then it was picked up by Netflix, and unfortunately didn't get that theatrical release in most places because it was only picked up, I think, for English markets by Netflix. That goes all to say that this was already on our list last year. It was very high on that list. I'm surprised that for Kevin, this is actually technically his pick, although it does feel like it belongs to me, Kevin.
Yeah,
But
you
snatch
can
this
have
away
it. You
from
can
me.
have it. Honestly,
Thank
you can have it.
Thank you. It's at my spot number 6. It's for you. It's at number 3. I think because it is a double up from last year, I feel less confident to like push other films like out of its way to get it higher up. For Lachlan, it's at spot number 29, and for Connor, it's at 85. And it's about an ill-mannered professor moonlighting as a fake hitman in police stings wait, what? I'm dying. A mild-mannered professor moonlighting as a fake hitman in police stings ignites a chain reaction of trouble when he falls for a potential client. And that client is played by Adria Arjano, and I have fallen in love just saying her name right now because she is stellar in this film. Glenn Powell also radiates off the screen. The sexiness is palpable. I feel like sweating just like talking about the film. It is crazy sexy. It's funny. I love this film. It's such a blast. What are y'all's thoughts on it? Maybe first with Kevin, as he has it technically higher than me even.
I mean, Hitman again. It was one of the best theater experience of Venice. Funnily enough, our best theater experience of Venice has been a Hitman movie every time. So who knows what 2025 will bring? But
Yeah.
again, Hitman. I am not one for rom-coms. Hell, let alone like
Boo.
the CP rom-com Netflix. But this is one where I'm kind of baffled. It only had a 3.4. Not that many people are putting it on their best of list because this is just a pure joy. I mean, for me, Hitman is on, dare I say, the same tier as When Harry Met Sally. Yeah, that's
Wow.
a tough.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's on that same level. Glenn Powell is a star, but we already know that by now. And yeah, I just absolutely adored it. I watched it twice. One time with in Venice, one time here. Also, both times in the theater, and I laughed both times as hard as possible. And I don't truly know what else to add without actually, spoiling all the fun bits in it. So I'll give the word to someone else.
I'll take it. I mean, I think like it looks
That was
really
such a
low on my
low blow.
list. Like I have it as like number 85 or whatever, but I honestly, when I look at more at these like numbers when we go through some of these movies, I realize like maybe I like them more than like the number looks. Like I do really really enjoy this movie. I watched this movie with a friend the night it came out, actually at 3 a.m. Because we were really
Oh
excited
wow.
about it. And yeah, I think Richard Linklater is like one of the most interesting filmmakers to come out of the States. I think he's like definitely like one of my favorites. I think I look back on movies like the Before trilogy and I'm trying to remember. I think
Dazed
Everybody
and
Wants
Confused?
Some. Dazed and
Everybody wants
Confused,
them, yeah.
yeah. I love Everybody Wants Some. I don't think I've logged in Letterboxd actually, but I really like Everybody Wants Some. I think just this movie's
School
really
of Rock?
fun.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
they're
no,
really
no, no.
fun.
Just like compare. Yeah, School of Rock's like really great too, but this movie's just really fun. I mean, a lot of his movies I feel like are fun, but I think the Before trilogy specifically and movies like that carry a sort of like dramatic weight to them that I feel like I'm not able to revisit them a lot. But with this, even though it does have a dramatic and like weight to it, it is kind of a thriller as well. It's really fun. It's like Kevin was saying, like it's one of the most fun movies I've seen like this year. I think the fact that it's able to be so romantic and so like kind of like sexy and like really like intense at certain points. It's able to balance all these like feelings and genres so well. I think it's really a testament to how good of a director Linklater is. I think he has another movie come out this year. I can't remember what it was, but I'm looking forward to anything he makes in
Yeah.
the near future.
I mean, he's got a couple projects on the horizon, and he's going to do that movie with Paul Mescal over the next like
Oh yeah.
20
Oh
years,
yeah, the
Merrily
40,
Go
14
Round.
years.
Yeah, and I think he has another one coming out this year, which I'm blanking on. It's the top of my most anticipated list, but I'm a fake fan, so I can't remember what it's called. I'm stalling in time
Wow.
so I can have a look at the list. It's called Blue Moon. So
Okay.
go watch list that. I'm very much looking forward to it. That's going to be a period piece of like in the 1940s. So, in the meantime, there's a lot to catch up on the delightful meal that Richard Linklater will offer you. And if you haven't already, it's streaming on Netflix. There's
I
literally
think Richard Linklater's Letterbox films directed by Richard Linklater. He looks like a really worn down Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
I love that the post midnight input from Lachlan is like the energy level is like
Come on,
right there.
Lachlan.
Which
You gotta look at this.
he
fucking
does a
thing.
bit look he does definitely look like that. But yeah, are we moving on to the top 3 picks, which all stand alone? There's no more ties anymore up in this shit, and it's I think the second most popular film actually on Letterboxd. If I have a quick look through at all of
It is.
our top picks, yeah, I know it is, and it's one from the one and only Luca Guadagnino. Challenges ranks at spot number 3 for us. It's on 2 of our top 10 lists. It's on Kevin's spot number 4, for Lachlan spot number 3. For me, it's at 12, and for Connor again, I think the number itself looks like it's lower than it is. Again, I feel like it's at 39, but it just speaks for the density of great film that we've gotten this year. Also been received pretty well, 3.9 on Letterboxd, and again, 2 million logs. It's only beaten by hint here, our number 1 film, which we'll get to shortly. But who tells me all about challenges? Maybe the tennis expert, or will it
No,
be the
because it's
Aussie?
Lachlan's.
It's
Lachlan's
okay,
highest
okay,
pick.
okay. But
Lachlan, you got this.
you gotta
I believe in you.
you gotta surf for him, you know.
Yeah,
It's there's a delay of him like.
I'm at the net. You are serving.
Tennis player turned coach Tashi has taken her husband, Art, and transformed him into a world famous major champion. To jolt him out of his recent losing streak, she signs him up for a challenger event close to the lowest level of pro tournament, where he finds himself standing across the net from his former best friend and Tashi's former boyfriend. Oh, look, I haven't seen Queer yet, so I can say this. This is Luca Guadagnino's best movie of the year. I can
Wait. Lachlan, I have seen Queer and I have seen Challenges. And I can say Challenges is Luca Guadagnino's best movie of the year.
Nice.
I guess
Hell
Connor
yeah.
would disagree
I'm the
because
only
he has.
defender,
Yeah.
Damn.
I haven't seen Queer, so I can't tell you that. And I honestly would like to say that I have seen Queer, so I can tell you, because ever since seeing, because funnily enough, I don't know if you guys know this, but I hadn't seen Call Me by Your Name until was it last year, late 2024.
I haven't
And
seen
my
it.
first Guadagnino film was Bones and All. Had no idea what it was about, and funnily enough, didn't know who Luca Guadagnino was. And then decided to go and watch it in cinemas because I heard some cool stuff, and that was my first interaction with him. And since then, I've fallen in love with everything that he's done. So Challenges, I'm going to assume that I like queer as well. Challenges was just this absolute cluster of fucking incredible direction and sound and the love triangle that Zendaya and Mike face.
Feist, yeah.
Who's the other person? Josh
Josh
O'Connor.
O'Connor, yeah.
My God, I'm having a stroke now.
I mean, you got to go back to
Snail.
work in like 7 hours or something like that. So I don't
7
fault.
hours. So I really enjoyed Challenges. I said that with Us the TV Glow, the soundtrack to that was in my continuous playlist, and so has the theme to Challenges. Just the if I ever need to get into a groove for something, can get some energy, I should listen to it right now while I'm talking.
Compress.
Play the song, and I'll be
Yeah, match
popping
point
off.
will amp you up.
The crazy thing is, and I talked about how something stays with me, and the reason Challenges is so high for me is that my partner and we've got into tennis because of this movie. We were like, let's go get tennis rackets, and we've gone and played tennis a bunch of times. And when a film leaves the cinema, stays with me, and makes me go do something, while it's just me playing tennis, that means it left an impact on me. Sorry, I had a fucking terrible joke in my head, but I'm not going to say it.
Nah, say it. Say it.
We had a threesome. That's a terrible joke. Oh God. So yeah, I really enjoyed Challenges for just the sheer energy that it brought to the cinema for me. But yes, I open it to the floor.
Or nah, you
Thanks,
open
guys,
it.
and I close the floor, and we can move on because no
Wait,
one's
did
fucking
that
heard
guy
you.
did that guy from Australia just say something? Sorry, I was blacking out.
No. Lachlan didn't open it to the floor. He opened it to the court. Tennis court.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Challenges. Look, I'm the
Love.
tennis guy. I've played tennis since I was 6 years old, right? So boy, I'm old. The tennis in this movie doesn't make any fucking sense. The shots they are doing, no, you don't do them. Especially the last one, like the match point, doesn't make sense. But I don't care when it's as epic and as well done with this bloody floating camera move. You know, everyone knows that scene by now. And they're going to the net, and it's exciting. I mean, I hate the phrase, I was on the edge of my seat. But I was on the edge of my seat during that rally. Here's the thing also, because I've had some friends, Luca, who say this movie isn't really that sexy. And I tend to disagree. Look, you can say Hitman is sexy, which it very much is. But Challenges kind of, made me go... it is sweaty. It is very sweaty. But Challenges made me go back to the times of the Hays Code. When sensuality and sexuality has to be a bit less, it has to be more subtle, be implied instead of actually shown. And Challenges for me is that, besides the actual one explicit scene in the bedroom where they're, kissing in front of her. But for the rest, they do that, and I love the whole sensuality of it. And as Luca Guadagnino said in an interview, I don't know how to shoot tennis, but I know how to shoot sensuality. And that, it hits nail on the head. I'm opening it to the court.
My favorite part was this part where he slapped his boner.
That was also I rewatched it last night, and I think that moment is so fucking funny.
They had a sound effect to it. Like, it's so funny.
It would be funny if it's like the same sound the ball makes when you hit it with the racket.
Yeah.
But I think this whole movie feels like one long drawn out sex scene in one, like the push and pull between especially Mike Feist and Josh O'Connor. I'm blanking on, one of them is Patrick and the other one's, what's his name?
Art.
Art. Their whole thing is like they're so in each other's space. Like my first initial review was like, how do I kindly tell a movie that day in my personal space? And that's just like what this movie feels like. It's like it's an inch away from your face the whole time. I loved it because that intensity just like never lets go. I like how it goes back from present day to flashback to basically set up this one match and why it means so much. It's a nice structure to the story that they're telling, the characters that they're building to build the tension, and then to end it in such an overemphasized, like non-logical tennis match that is throwing out all of the tennis, because constantly in this movie, characters are talking about, like, even when there's sensuality, they always bring it back to tennis. And that moment to me feels like, no, it's the embrace of that, like, of that closeness where, like, the tennis is completely thrown out of the window, where it ultimately is about, like, all about that drive that they have. And I love that all of the characters are also super fucked up. They're just all assholes. They're just complete assholes, and some of them are more aware of it. Like Patrick being like embracing that a bit more. But yeah, there's just so much to this film to enjoy. Even if it's just like listening to the soundtrack, not even having seen the movie, I'd still feel like that's a banger. So great stuff.
Should it win best score of the year?
It should. No question. I think The Brutalist is close up, but it's like The Brutalist is more a amazing score for an amazingly crafted film. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are always like doing something interesting with their scores that feel like to the best of the benefit to the movie. Where I feel like with The Brutalist, it's just a really, really, really great score. But it's not like breaking the envelope to me. Like a lot of the score in Challenges wouldn't make sense on paper. It just doesn't. Like in the one scene where they kiss in the rain, and then it's just a chorus, like a choir of like children singing. It just makes no fucking sense. I loved it. I loved the children singing. It was like so out there. But I went back because both of these I watched them at home. I never got to see it in a theater, unfortunately. I wrote down, what the fuck? Why are there children singing? What the fuck is the song choice? But I end up really loving it because I don't know. It just does something inventive. It keeps you on your toes. The Court.
For me, I think Challengers is not as. For the Queer is my favorite Guadagnino movie this year, but obviously it's impossible for me to ignore the kind of weight that Challenger holds, not only for Guadagnino's like his like filmography, but for like this year. I think out of any movie that's come out this year, even though like there's a movie that like 2 movies away that like has more logs, I feel like this is the one that everyone was able to have an overlap in terms of like different like communities of interest, like whether it be people that are interested in tennis, interested in movies, music, and then like TikTok turned it into a whole trend and everything. Obviously the Substance had a similar kind of like lifespan in terms of that, but like this movie I feel like was able to find like some sort of way of getting so many different kinds of audiences interested, and I feel like that's a pretty like important aspect of this movie and its reception. Personally, I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score in this movie. I do think I prefer the score for Queer just a little bit, only because for me that movie, its moments that it has score, and it's like really experimental weird moments that it does with its music, it's very different than anything else they've done. I feel like with Challengers, its score is different. It's kind of insane at certain points, but it feels very similar to stuff they've done in their Nine Inch Nails career and everything like that. So that's my only thing, but I think this movie is pretty incredible. Obviously, it's pretty high in my list of like 200 whatever movies I have in my ranking. But yeah, I'm not as high as you guys, but I do really, really appreciate it, and I hope that Trent and Atticus win that award personally.
Yeah. But
should I describe what I think Luca Guadagnino looks like to continue the joke from the last one?
I knew it.
Sure.
Go for it.
I don't have much for this one. It's pretty piss poor, I'm not gonna lie, but Luca Guadagnino looks like this year's Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
That is weirdly on point.
Can you see it?
Yeah, no, I definitely can see it. Yeah. All right, anyways.
That's game, set, match for Challenges.
Exactly. So let's move on to our second highest rated film of the year. It's Anora from Sean Baker. And this is actually a tie between between two of us where it ranks for us. There's two people in this call who really love this, have this at second highest film of the year, as it is also collectively, I guess, for Quiet on Set. But then we got Kevin, who has it at spot number 22, and then for Connor, it's all the way down. So I guess he'll get into why he
why are you doing
it
it so dirty?
I mean, hey, look, it's at spot number 2, but like then it's also very much
At least he
leaning
gave a number.
107.
Number 107.
107,
At least he didn't
yeah.
go, it's between 100 and 200.
It's on the list, but in some half.
Yeah.
I don't even say in the bottom or top half. But for me and Lachlan, it's both second favorite film of the year. For me, it's my favorite narrative film of the year. And it's about Anora, a young sex worker from Brooklyn who gets her chance at a Cinderella story when she meets and impulsively marries the son of an oligarch once the once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as the parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. Again, we reviewed all of these, pretty much all of the films in our top 10 here on the podcast in detail. I love the story. I think it's a blast. I think it concludes in a way that feels like there's actual character progression. I saw that less when I first watched it. I still loved it when I got to see it in Gun, but then on the rewatch, I think it even resonated with me more in her story, and I think the explosive longer scene where they're all in the house and trying to make sense of things is just so entertaining. And I think to me that if I think back to 2024, that is like the scene I'll go back to, where I feel like the filmmaking is just at its peak with the humor, the intensity. It's all there for me. I was just really impressed with the filmmaking all around from one of our filmmakers who does the writing, the editing, the shooting, all of it. Sean Baker, outstanding picture, as they say, with Anora. Lachlan.
We're opening it up
That's
to the strip
me.
club.
Opening it up to the
Alright.
poll. Slide on down.
Anora is the one film that I broke my one rule for on Letterboxd, and that's not giving 5 stars on the first watch. And you know what? It's because I gave it 4.5 stars, and then we were talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to rewatch this. There's no if I'm gonna like it, because I already know I'm gonna like it, and I'm gonna rewatch it shortly anyway. Never got around to the rewatch, so I really broke it, and I think it's the only film that I liked this year, because I just feel like everything was dead on point for me. I think that the music was great. Mikey Madison was fantastic. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a simple film for me just to say yeah. I don't have anything else. It's not like it's interesting that I could get to debate like body horror or anything. It's like the film was the good film.
The same goes for me. I feel like even though we are nearing the end of I guess the video and our final recordings, whatever the final picks here, over 4 hours in, there's just also not a ton in Anora, which might be a critique that the two of you have for it. I just had a blast with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna fully divulge my guts about this movie because I feel like all of that would be too much for a video that's already overly long. But
no, keep going.
I think Anora, especially in relation to Sean Baker's filmography, is like lesser so to me. Especially considering like what he released even like 3 years ago with Red Rocket. That's my favorite from Sean Baker. I really love Florida Project. I love Tangerine. That's one of my favorites as well. I think parts of this reminds me a lot of Tangerine as well. Like that's what I was thinking about the entirety of that second half, where it becomes like kind of like a farce. It reminded me a lot of Tangerine, where like those two characters are kind of wandering around the streets, like, you know, chasing after this pimp that wrongs one of them. And like this kind of feels similar in the sense that like these like random characters, not random, but these characters come into to the game like very late, and they're so funny and so like eccentric and crazy that they kind of throw all of like the Cinderella story that's been happening before out of whack. And I obviously know that's like for storytelling purposes, but at the same time, for me, I already wasn't that enveloped in the Cinderella story in the first place. Especially considering like, to me, with what I'm given from the script and from everything everything like I saw in that first watch, in that first half, I didn't really get a lot of out of Anora's character. Personally, I think not that she's simple, but that I don't know if she's one of my favorite Sean Baker characters. It's hard for me to really describe this because I remember talking about this with a friend recently, and like they like kind of jumped the gun on like thinking that I didn't really understand like the complexities of this character because like she's like a woman, which I think is like a wrong way to approach movie discourse or discourse about anything really if you're going to be so absolutist. But like especially considering Sean Baker's writing for his like characters in the past, it just doesn't feel that it doesn't feel as like complex or even like rewarding in that sense to like look into her character as other films. And when it goes further into that farce in the back half, and then like there's that scene that I really don't like, and they use the word again, the F slur scene. I know there's probably a debate on like how that word is used. I know it's like very commonly used in sex work communities, especially since sex work communities are largely populated by like queer people, and I understand that. But Anora, as we've seen in the movie, especially Sean Baker, the person that's writing it, they both aren't queer, so like it felt kind of weird to me. And like I understand the movie is like portraying these characters very honestly and authentically, but scenes like that to me kind of throw me off in a way where like I could see the authenticity, but it's like I'm not able to connect with these characters in a way where I can't see Sean Baker at the helm. I don't know. It's hard way. I can't really like formally like address my concerns with it, but like
it's the lesser thing of like you can't disconnect the art from the artist in a way where like they've done something heinous, but here it's about like, do you have ownership over using certain themes or using a slur as part of your narrative when you're not like actually authentically living that experience? Are you then just like kind of using it for your own gain? I think like that's kind of like I had similar thoughts to it where I was like, I don't love this character using the F slur the whole time. It's like okay. Obviously she's a layered person there who you're not supposed to idealize as like pretty princess Cinderella or whatever. And I think it's also like a part of projection that she throws out as like, we break down these walls that she really holds close to her chest to like not reveal any vulnerability. And I think that's why like that breaking point for that character is something that feels like it's coming out of nowhere. To me, at least on the first watch, because I wasn't really paying attention to her, because like the way that I saw her, which speaks more about my like me than I think how the movie is crafted. I didn't really see her to be like super vulnerable in this. Obviously that she's heard from and stressed from the situation, but not that it's so much of a facade that she's putting up that is like coming down. And I was just I really thought it worked well for me on the second time around, way more than on the first watch. There's actually like a lot to her character, even though she might come off as simple. But I totally understand that, like, you maybe don't connect with it as much.
The facade thing, I think that what made her character so interesting to me, and I think that, again, this is like she kept it to herself the entirety of the film. And you can kind of see how impactful the whole situation is about. She didn't genuinely demonstrate how she felt. And that is what makes that last moment in the car so impactful, to me at least. And I think that a conversation has been had online about what that last moment in the vehicle really was all kind of about, especially because she comes breaking down. So I felt that maybe she wasn't super complex, but I found the overall, like, she just never ever, like, she kept her opinions honest, she never changed. And it wasn't until the end where I was sitting there and I was that one scene happened and I just, oh no, she actually is quite genuinely vulnerable in this whole situation. And she is one of, if not one of the very few women in almost every scene. And the only other major female character is this way more powerful woman. And I found that juxtaposition between this Russian mum and her just a crazy little comparison. But for me, it was just like the hiding of the emotion. Like I wouldn't want that to come out, and I would want it to be like if it was to come out, at least hidden and layered, like for example, the last 20 minutes of my recording hasn't been recording for audio, and that's a problem for Ewan, and I don't want him to know about it, so I'm just going to throw it into this and help him so he deals with it later. But the layered character of Anora, seems simple, but you can break it down. And I think, like, I can't remember who said it about a particular character and their eyes, a real pain. Someone spoke about a real pain, and this is not this recording. It's actually a different recording from earlier. So, in regards to, God, time is relative. I am breaking down. But Ewan spoke about how in, like, a real pain, when you watch it a second time, you can see that the pain in
Kieran Culkin and
Kieran
Benji.
Culkin's eyes.
Yeah.
And I feel the same thing will happen on a rewatch with Anora. You could probably see the same sort of emotion just in the performance. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just quickly say my thoughts. I had the same problem with Anora that I have in every movie. Sean Baker is really good at honing in on the subject, but also kind of losing himself into it. I've had that problem with every one of his movies I've seen. Red Rocket is still my favorite. And once he loses himself into it, he does always manage to get back on the path. And with Anora in that last car scene, when we get an insight into that broken mentality, it does wrap it up very nicely, which is why I still rate it that highly, even though if I think the second to third act doesn't work quite well, but it's still very good. Unto the final movie!
Yes, so on here we have the one and only film that I think by the time now you could have guessed it. It's also the one that is the highest rated Letterboxd film. If you check out their year-end review, so we have quite normies when it comes to our picks. It is on 3 of our lists. On Kevin's, it's actually number 1. We haven't gotten around to Kevin's number 1. It's Dune Part 2. On mine, it's spot number 3. On Lachlan, it's number 4. And for Connor, it's again we are ostracizing you to have it like we love something and then you're like a bit more
hater.
further off. Yeah, like the hate. Oh my god, the hater energy here. But no, you still have it at 29, which is like somewhere in your 4.5 rating still for films. It's Dallas winning away, as we like to say here. The follow up to 2020's Epic that left things kind of open and now is continuing on this saga that we are eagerly awaiting a continuation on. It's the one kind of franchise where we're clamoring to, yes, please keep going, and do that. We'll be here for it. Paul Atreides is back, and he's fierce, and it is also super popular. 4.4 on Letterboxd, 2.4 million logs. So I think most people are familiar with it. So I don't know how much I can say beyond that we can still give it our thoughts, because I think it's not one of the films that we need to champion as much. I think the discourse has been had online. I don't have something super unique to say about it, other than I got to see it on my second watch in IMAX, and it was a blast. It was like pushing me back into my seat, where usually you want to be on the edge of your seat, like Kevin hates to say. But hey, for the anticipation, for the action, for like the thrills. But this just kind of puts you back, and you're like, oh my god, immerse me in this world. It is epic. It's got everything that we want a movie to be. Like it is big in scale of the rare kind that we don't really get in movies anymore, and just impressive. It's just, that's kind of all I gotta say. It's impressive all around. But Kev, your number 1 movie of the year.
It's my number 1 movie of the year. I've seen it in the end of February. I've seen the end of March, both times in IMAX, and since then it's basically been the one question of the year: is there any movie that can beat this cinematic achievement for me this year? And the answer is no. Dune Part 2, let's just say Dune, because Part 1, Part 2, they are this generation's Star Wars. It's this generation's Lord of the Rings. Dune is this generation's sci-fi, adventure, whatever spectacle. And you can feel that, especially when you see it in IMAX. I love this movie. Denis Villeneuve can do no bad anything. And look, aside from all the spectacle, this movie still very much tackles actual real life events translated to the big screen about so many topics that you can kind of lose its sight of what it actually wants to say, because it has so much in it. And I championed the one thing, because we have this whole award season bullshit, but the biggest champion that I want to highlight of Dune Part 2 are the screenwriters. I do not think the screenwriters of Dune Part 2 get enough props, because they tackle so much in this movie, even though it's almost fucking 3 hours, I guess. They tackle so much into this runtime, and I still believe that is the biggest achievement of Dune Part 2. I've said it now, I've said it back in February. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I love this movie. I do think it's the biggest cinematic achievement of this year. Back to the dunes. Open to the dunes. To the desert.
Sand.
Dune Cam.
Dune Cam. Oh, we need Dune Cam. Dune Cam. You almost forgot about it. It's well for Lachlan.
The way Lachlan lunged forward.
Half past Dune in the morning for Lachlan.
Yo, Lachlan, go for it.
Yeah. Dune's pretty good. Okay, so look, these thoughts are not going to be structured whatsoever, okay? So the first thought is, I love Dune Part 1. It was my favorite movie of the year when it came out, or just Dune as it's known as. Honestly, this was, as I said earlier, my number one for the longest time. I adored this film, seeing it twice. I unfortunately do not have an IMAX screen where I live. I would have to pay close to $600 to $700 to fly to the other side of the country to see it in IMAX. And whilst I was considering it at one point, it's just not fucking, a $600 ticket is not, as good as Dune Part 2 was. It's probably not worth it. Definitely a better investment in this steelbook and watching it in my nice theater that I have
Dolby Atmos
at home. Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, etc., etc. Now, next thing I had a joke about how Connor had it at his spot 29, and I was gonna make why do you hate Dune? Is it because there's sand in its core? So it was a Star Wars joke, but you kind of already brought Star Wars into it. The second thought I then had was when you said it's this generation Star Wars. No, we already have this generation Star Wars, and it's the fucking prequel series. So fuck, goddamn it. That kind of does suck. So there's my second thought. My third thought is that Denis Villeneuve seems like he looks like my uncle, which is kind of funny. No one knows who my uncle is. So there's that. There's like that joke. Honestly, the score to Dune Part 2, I think, is kind of forgotten about a little bit. I think it's a solid score. I think the cinematography is top notch with this as well for its scale from Greg Fraser. And I think ultimately, like, if you were to compare Dune 1 and 2, 2 is the better film. It is the more enjoyable film, I think, as it just takes everything that Dune Part 1 set up. And without Dune Part 1, we will not have Dune Part 2. And Dune 2 is only good because Dune 1 exists. So I agree, Kevin. They are just Dune. One big cluster film. And honestly, as much as I hate to say it, Timothée Chalamet is still like my least favorite part of the Dune series. It's just his Paul Atreides is just so fucking boring. In fact, I hate Harry Potter as a character, and I'm willing to put Paul Atreides from Timothée Chalamet, I'm willing to put him below Harry Potter because Harry Potter gets everything given to him, and if I'm honest, so does Paul. Like, he just gets everything fucking given to him, and the fact that he can just ride a fucking sandworm straight away and just like, yeah, I get he's the fucking chosen one. I get it. He's Luke Skywalker or whatever. But like the MVP of Dune Part 2 is Javier Bardem. And if anyone else wants to fight me on that one, let's go right now.
I agree.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. No one wants to fight. No one wants to fight me when I'm fucking sleep deprived. Seriously.
Extend the sandworm over to Connor. But I mean, I think it's just again,
I mean,
like Kevin
I
said,
don't really
achievement
know
in cinema.
if I have like much to really add, really, because like obviously, like I didn't, love the
You hate
movie
it.
as much as you
You
guys.
hate the
Yeah, I
film.
hated it. I'm the biggest hater. Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. I give it a
animosity,
4.5 out of 5.
Spot
and I hate
39.
it.
You might as well
I'm-
just have it at spot
I'm like-
200.
Yeah, I'm like Lights Camera Jackson. I love giving like crazy. Yep. No, it's true. I hated it. Actually, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I knew you were the David Lynch fan. You like the David Lynch one more than you like this
Yeah,
one,
that's
so I
true.
totally get it.
Oh my
I like the space
The
God.
bugs.
mischaracterization is like
Yeah.
incredible in here.
You saw
but
Children
no.
of Dune or whatever it was, the TV show, and was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is it.
This is better. Yeah.
No, obviously we all like Dune quite a bit, and it's just great that it made money,
Yeah.
that it resonated with people, and it brings us to the end of a very extensive recap that
War shambles.
we definitely didn't foresee to go that long. So just as a quick recap, we'll go over top 10s so you can kind of hear them like specifically what our individual top 10s were. For me, from 10 to 1 with Memoir of a Snail, Didi, Broken Rage, The Substance, Hitman, Alien Romulus, Hundreds of Beavers, Dune Part 2, Anora, and Black Box Diaries. Lachlan?
Me.
Yeah.
My number 10 was Vampire King, Nosferatu, Wicked Witch of the West, Wicked, Jude Law killing it with a shotgun, The Order. I saw the TV Glow, which I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head right now. Claymation, Memoir of the Snail, The Substance, Body Horror, Doom Part 2, Sand, Challenges, Tennis, Anora. I'm just saying words associated with the movie at this point, so sex worker, Longlegs, Scary.
All right, great. What about you, Kevin? What's your top 10?
I've been recording for 8 hours. Like, I've been here for 8 hours. I'm held hostage. Save me.
It's a real pain.
Alright, my number 10 is All Along Nights, which is for me this year's perfect days. We got Escape from the 21st Century, which is for me the funniest movie of this year. Absolutely bonkers. We got Sing Sing, a movie that really grew on me as time went on. We got The Wild Robot, which I absolutely adored, my favorite animated movie of this year. Things Will Be Different, which is a movie that needs to be viewed more. Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 2, the second chapter. I have the honor of seeing it. I do think it is better than the first. I need part 3. We got Challengers. It isn't the best tennis movie this year, but my god, does it fuck. We got Hitman. My god, does it fuck. We got Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. My god, does it bang. And we got Dune Part 2, which, my god, it bangs.
All right, Connor, close us out.
Okay, so I'm just gonna list them off. So starting from number 10, I have Janet Planet. I have Queer Next, Rebel Ridge, Furiosa, Daughters, Flow, La Chimera, A Different Man, Close Your Eyes, and then I Saw the TV Glow.
Perfect. And as we get
I
to
like how Connor
four-
is the least sane.
I mean, he's the most sane out of the two of you. When I said list your top 10s, and both of you went to like a word association game, and the other one was like bang, bang, bang. I feel like it is time to close this review
I
out
thought I was
on a
listening
bang.
to a Ricky Martin song.
Oh my god.
And as our recording reaches 4:20, I think we need to
Nice.
for Blaze one up, and we'll see you the next time around. Check out the podcast, all of our reviews, find our individual lists, link below, our Letterboxd HQ, subscribe, because god damn it, this was some dedicated top 10 that had like hundreds of movies on it when you include our honorable mentions.
Applause for
and
everyone
the
all
amount of
around.
yapping is inconceivable. So thanks so much for our cast, the dedicated reviewers here, Connor, Lachlan, and Kevin. You find their socials linked below as well as mine. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon, but we gotta get some sleep before we get back.
See you guys.
Bye. I've been recording for so long that the police have put up a I can't finish the joke. I was gonna make a joke about me being like missing.